Warriors win. Warriors win. Warriors win. 103-89. Buddy Hield. Just as we told you, Buddy Hield. All right, off and running on the Krueg Show. Happy May the 4th. It's 8:20 on the West Coast. It's 11:20 back east. In either side of the country, the Warriors are moving on to the second round of the NBA playoffs. They beat the Rockets on the road, 103-89. Wow. Now, that was great to see. Steve Kerr started Buddy Hield, and I'm sure a lot of people thought, what is Steve Kerr doing? Wow. Buddy Hield, what a night. Career night. Greatest night in the life of Buddy Hield. As Buddy Hield plays 37 minutes, he shot 12 of 15 from the field, 9 of 11 from three-point range. That's right. Buddy Hield hit 9 threes, was plus 17, wound up with 33 points, and Buddy Hield said, boys, jump on my back. I am going to lead you to the second round with the greatest game of his professional career, Buddy freaking Hield. Welcome to the Krueg Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. We're also brought to you by Learn Key Upskill Academy. We'll tell you about both in just a minute. But wow, we get it rolling. We've invited the whole crew tonight. Danny's in the house. We've invited Frank Red, Carl Foster, Rye. Cy will be joining us after he wraps up with Rick Barry. He's having a little breakdown with Rick. I told him, hey, you know what? Do your breakdown with the Hall of Famer and come on over when you're done. So he'll be over here in a bit. But we get it rolling. And I'd love to hear in the chat what you thought of tonight's victory. I mean, I'll say this. I didn't see it coming. I said I thought the Warriors were done. I, of course, had the Rockets in 7. But, Danny, let me just say this. I mean, not to take anything off of Golden State, because I really do believe that you don't go on the road in somebody else's building in the playoffs in a game 7 and have them, hand it to you. But the Rockets, I'm not here just to pat the Warriors on the back. I got to rip the Rockets a little bit as well. Outside of Amen Thompson, who came alive in the third quarter, Sengun, that's like the worst 21-14 game I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he missed so many close-up shots. He made what could have been for him all night. 21-14 was the most inefficient because he was on 9 of 23 shooting. They kept Van Vliet in check to a degree. He had a couple late bomb threes to make it look more one-sided. They kept Jalen Green in check. They kept Jabari Smith in check. And, what can you say? I mean, Golden State came out. They won the first quarter. They had to win the first quarter. They won the first quarter 23-19. I thought the deep three from Buddy Hield at the end of the first quarter was what we would call foreshadowing by the author. And Kevon Looney gave the Warriors a huge second quarter lift for sure. Golden State was up by 10 with 3 minutes left in the second quarter. And then Hield hits the 3 to make it 42-31. Then Hield hits another 3 to make it 45-33. He went off in that second quarter. And then he hit another 3 to go up, Golden State to go up 48-34. So Steph Curry only had that one 3-pointer, Danny, in the first half.
Right.
His only bucket. But Buddy Hield, I mean, what is the Warriors' weakness? Sometimes their offense dries up, and when they get offense from somebody not named Steph, it's absolutely huge. And Buddy's first half won them this game.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt Buddy was on. And like you said, that into the first quarter 3, I mean, it was 20-19 when he made that. And the Warriors trailed only one time tonight, briefly, at 19-17. the Warriors had gotten up early, and then the Rockets came back, and you thought, oh boy, here we go. And then that particular shot by Buddy made it 23-19. And then the Warriors never trailed after that. And it was pretty remarkable that he was able to, I mean, he hit that thing. That was a Curry shot. I didn't think he had a chance just because you've never seen Buddy kind of shoot him that deep. But hey, he was on tonight. Did he make 10 threes tonight?
Buddy tonight made 9 threes, but he made 9 of 11.
Yeah.
And if you looked at his first half, where he won this game, Buddy in the first half wound up with 22 points, 14 in the second quarter alone. And Buddy was just amazing. 8 of 9 is what he shot in the first half. And Golden State was up 12 at the end of the first half, 51-39. You know, Curry came out in the first half in the biggest game of the series, biggest game of the year. And Steph Curry in the first half shot 1 for 7.
Yeah, you know who Buddy Hield? You know who Buddy Hield was tonight? He was Barry Zito in 2012.
That was a pearl. Look at the pearl. Remember that? The Krueg Show line?
Yeah. I mean, Buddy Hield doesn't show up much all year, and then he gets this contract for 3 or 4 years, $8 million a year, and he shows up when they need him the most. And it's it just reminds me a little bit of Barry Zito, how he showed up in that, what was that, game 5, down 3-1. And
in fairness to Zito, he did win 16 that year.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, it was like ridiculous. And in fairness to Buddy, Buddy has been a very good shooter throughout his career. He's very streaky. He sometimes turns off, his mind as far as, he just is out there kind of floating around. He makes some really bad basketball plays that he's going to make you pull your hair out over the course of a full season. Heck, we were pulling our hair out just in the last post game talking about it. We bring in the great Rye Smith. Look at this. Look at this. We've got the original show right here now. It's like we got the OGs in the house tonight.
Oh, it feels good to be back.
Seriously. Rye, what did you think? We were just talking about how Buddy Hield will make you pull your hair out and make you so pissed off if you watch him throughout the year. Oops, wait a second. But if you, let me see, I want to go into this mode. Hold on a second.
You want to be in the middle.
No, I didn't want to be in the middle. I just wanted us to be, I could be in the middle. Yeah, I could be in the middle. That's right. I'd like to be in the middle. Damn it. Yeah. And for that, I'm putting you under both you're being covered up as much as possible. Now I could do one of these and just really be a jerk. This would be like this is the Damon Bruce show right here. Thank you. No, I'm just joking. Damon, if you're watching, don't take it personally. God, everybody takes everything personally. There we go. And then we could do like a little thing where we just move around, which, we've done before. And what the heck? But no, we were just talking about how Buddy Hield will make you crazy. But tonight, Buddy Hield was freaking amazing. That was the greatest game of Buddy's career. And it's like, this is why I wanted Buddy on the team originally, because he does have this in him. And just most guys don't. So there was value in that. The question was it ever going to show up in any kind of meaningful moment? And to see it show up in game 7 on the road kind of validates the entire season. It validates the signing by Mike Dunleavy, does it not?
100%. Just off the top of your head, so Buddy Hield just played 7 playoff games. How many playoff games do you think he's played in his entire career?
Maybe that's it.
Maybe he's played like a
he played a few. I'd say 15.
He's played 11. So 11. Last year when he completely disappeared for Philadelphia, and then this year. So this is real. I mean, this is kind of like his first go. That was incredible. I cannot believe that he put up that 3 at the end of the game. That could have turned ugly. Just launching that.
I loved it. I loved it
too.
I loved it because of the brutality of this series. I just thought, you know what? Houston's been all kinds of just cheap shots going after Curry's thumb all series. You know what? Stick it in their face, man. You know what? On their home court. And that 3 actually tied a Game 7 record for threes made.
That's electric. I will say before, I don't know if Cy's jumping in.
He is going to jump in.
Okay, I'll get this off now before Cy jumps in. Okay, that last post game was a lot of Kerr bashing. A lot of we need to get Kerr's Kuminga see the floor.
Kerr's 4-1 in Game 7, I think now, isn't he?
Yeah, that was a Steve Kerr masterclass. Completely came in ready for that zone, and the offense was just like humming out of the gate. Kuminga, it's so frustrating. When he first came in, he made like one of the best moves I've ever seen him make to get to the cup, and he just he missed the layup, and then he had the turnover. It's like you can see the theoretical Jonathan Kuminga could be so helpful in this series, but I think he's the only guy on the team that ended up with a negative plus-minus in this game. Not that he was on the floor that much, but
he's on.
Should we do a concerted? Should we do a concerted effort to try to force Cy to apologize to Kerr?
Yeah.
Seriously, go at him. Just like it's just a coordinated, relentless. Don't you think? I mean, Cy, that's a good point and all, but don't you think you should apologize to Kerr for just? No, I'm not apologizing. He's just absolutely I mean, it might be great for the stream. It might be an incredible moment in stream history if we just all kept going. Don't you think that maybe you owe Kerr an apology? Just kind of just keep edging him with it until he just no.
I don't know if you noticed, but Ty Jerome had 20 off the bench tonight too.
Oh, drop that in. No, but this was an amazing game. When I saw Hield go for 20, I'm like, if you're a Rockets fan, the worst thing that possibly could happen is that you are down at halftime and Steph's done nothing and Buddy Hield has carried this team, because this team has problems scoring points when it's not Steph Curry. And then to have Buddy just absolutely provide all the necessary offense was just, I knew it was done at the half. You guys knew it was done, didn't you?
I did really feel quite confident, but I was not 100% sure.
Look who's in the house. Carl Foster.
That handsome guy.
You throw an invite, and this man will show up. And I wasn't going to let him hang out in the green room because all the good food and drink is back there, and I don't want him hanging. The last thing I want you doing is raiding our green room. Carl, what'd you think? Yes. What'd you think tonight? We were just talking about the brilliance of Buddy Hield, and also in our last stream after Game 6, Cy just ripped the crap out of Kerr, just relentlessly. And I kind of agree with Rye out of the chute, and you missed it, but Rye just basically did a breakdown about how it was a brilliant game plan from Kerr, and seemed like everything he tried tonight worked, and he showed, Kerr's now kind of the master in Game 7 in a lot of ways. This one on the road. What'd you think of the win?
Well, there were two things that really jumped out at me. Number one, it was the professionalism of the veterans. Outside of the one small little moment where Draymond and Van Vliet had a little bit of a hello, what you going to do this summer type of thing. I thought the professionalism really just stood out. You could see that they weren't trying to overdo. They were really locked in defensively. Needless to say, the Buddy Hield piece was just beautiful, and I'm happy for him. He's such a happy-go-lucky guy. He's a guy with a lot of high character traits. Clearly, Jimmy's had a huge impact on him. And a lot of people forget just how good Jimmy Butler has been in Game 7s. And I thought just the way that he approached the game, he didn't try to do too much. He was still creating for others. He and Draymond did a great job of being able to play, tag team wrestling with Steven Adams and Sengun. And you could really just see the immaturity on the Houston side. I thought if they could keep Fred VanVleet from going off above 20, I was pretty confident and told a number of friends earlier today they should win the game by about 6 to 7 points.
Wow. Yeah.
The chat is filled up with some of my biggest fans.
Kepic's is that
Krueger
a team?
is a bitch. He said Rockets would win. There probably was a better way to say that, wasn't there?
Is that a team?
And then
a team, Larry?
G. Martinez says, Larry, apologize for your wrong prediction. I please do not wager on my predictions. I did. I said the Warriors were done, that the Rockets would get them in 7. I said the Rockets would get them in 7 at the beginning of the series. I really just thought the Rockets had a little bit more. I mean, the Rockets are a horrible offensive team. I don't know if the Rockets could score if the Warriors left the floor. I mean, it's like these guys have a rough time. Sengun rimmed out and pulled up short. It was like if he was a golfer, I would have been like, God, dude, you've got the yips right now. He totally had the yips. Everything was a little short, a little this and a little that. He was abysmal. Green is like the greatest athlete I've ever seen who never does anything. And
Green,
Jabari Smith, paging Jabari Smith. Where was he tonight?
Both Jabari Smith and Green are going to find themselves eating Southwestern food in the state of Arizona next year, because if I'm the general manager of the Houston Rockets, I have one agenda this summer, and that is to woo Kevin Durant to bring his talents to the city of Houston. Because if they had an offensive engine, I mean, if we're honest, their best offensive player of the series was Fred VanVleet, and he's got a $44 million option that they have to pick up in order to keep him around.
I love him. He's great.
Steven Adams was beautiful. I mean, Aquaman just did an amazing job. He really kept this series close for them. I mean, his plus 29 up until game 6 was huge. Today, I don't think he was plus. The other thing you have to look at is that Steve Kerr gave everybody an opportunity tonight who needed an opportunity. Kuminga got an opportunity to see if he could bring something instead of GP2. He gave Moses Moody ample opportunity. At the end of the day, he trusted the guys who have the best ability to make consistent plays. And anybody who didn't know Kevon Looney was going to play a lot tonight does not know Steve Kerr. And when people talk about Steve, I get kind of embarrassed for them from time to time, to be honest, because it tells me they've never coached. Coaching's not easy, man. And winning at this level, Larry, winning at this level, Dan, Ryan, it is really hard. So to get to a game 7 as a 7 seed against a 2 seed that's real physical, and let's be honest, none of us are happy with how they officiated Steph Curry in this series. It's almost as if they're making Steph play golf with a handicap by allowing him to be held and grabbed and mangled for 7 games.
I gotta say, I gotta give the next big point. Obviously, we want to keep talking about how awesome this Warriors win was, but Amen Thompson, I already knew he was a great player, but I feel like his ceiling, or what I thought of his ceiling, just went up by 30% after this game. He showed up. He was ready. He seemed a little bit tentative, a little lights are bright in the first couple of games. But holy hell, at one point he was just carrying the entire Rockets team on offense, then getting back on defense, playing unreal defense on Steph Curry. That guy's a freak show.
He's Scottie Pippen. The challenge is, I keep hearing people use the name superstar. It's impossible to be a superstar player in the NBA in today's NBA when you can't shoot.
Yeah.
And he's not a shooter. His brother's not a shooter. What they are is everything we all wish Jonathan Kuminga was, which is really focused on all of the small things. How do I help my teammates play better by me defending, by me dominating on the glass, running the floor? But I mean, a guy who can only drive and shoot from 7 feet is going to be tough to run an offense through him. So they need to go out and get them an outstanding player on the offensive end if they want to have a chance to go 2 or 3 rounds in the playoffs.
How do you think, thinking of team that what the Rockets need to do, what would it be like if the Warriors next year got Steven Adams, who's a free agent?
Hey, What would it be like if they got Giannis?
I don't even know if they need any of that. If they could just have like Cam Johnson and everybody a healthy training camp with what they got back and maybe something in the draft, I wouldn't mind. The one thing about the Warriors that I'm kind of encouraged by, Carl, you and I have done draft coverage literally on campus there. On KMBR, Carl was on our draft coverage the year they drafted. Was it Biedrins or Petrus?
Biedrins. And when they did Michael Pietrus, because remember, we got a phone call from one of our mutual friends letting us know that the Frenchman was about to go down to Golden State.
That's right. We were at the practice. Yeah, exactly. I loved Pietrus. He was one of my favorite Warriors. If you want to just say random, obscure Warriors that were fun, Michael Pietrus was a fun Warrior to root for, and he had a good personality. He was fun to talk to. I liked him. What happened to him? He had a kind of a short career.
Yeah, he did. He went back home, went to go play back in Europe.
Oh, okay. Probably making decent money.
A lot of mademoiselles back there.
What do you guys think as far as next round against Minnesota? Now you got two lower seeds locking horns. Minnesota's got a lot of size. A lot of people thought they wouldn't get by the Lakers. They did. This was a huge win, by the way, for the ratings people, right? Because you're gonna have LeBron out and Steph out potentially tonight.
Yeah.
Though this young Rockets team, I think, has got a lot of attractive stars, including Thompson. But Steph is the face of the league, and if he goes out this round, I think that's got to cost you millions, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't follow this stuff that closely, but what do you think of the next round? Warriors, T-Wolves. Let's go around the room here. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm not crazy about the schedule. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday. That's tough on the Warriors. I mean, Minnesota's going to been resting for a full week, almost 6 days.
Yeah, it's pretty unreal. Damn, just 1 day of rest in between.
Yeah, that's a little worrisome. I think the Warriors, if the Warriors can somehow be at 2-2 after 4. I think they have a good shot, but
someone says where the F is Cy. Cy's finishing up with Rick Barry and is going to come on over. So he'll be over in a few. So,
that's the same guy that said, I thought you were going to tee him up.
Well, he was going at me kind of hard, but you know what? I kind of got to, if you talk a lot of S, you gotta wear it sometimes. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. I mean, I was loud and proud that the Rockets were winning this thing in 7. And then when it got to game 7, I was kind of Johnny, you-know-it-all after game 6. And you know what? Look at me. I was right on the money. And then here we are, game 7. And somebody in the chat said it took some Herculean Buddy Hield career night to make you wrong. But, noted. But either way, I'm, me. I'm a lifelong Warrior fan. I'm glad they're moving on. We got another 2 weeks to talk Warrior basketball. And that's more money for my channel and more attention for the channel and more everything. So, it's, we're capitalists.
Might have to hold off on that 26 mock draft next week.
Exactly. Though tomorrow, stopping by on the Krueg Show, Baldy will be in the house.
Yes.
We'll be breaking down the Niner draft. So
favorites.
Look for that coming your way shortly. But tonight we're talking with our great panel on about this Warrior game. What do you guys think though? I mean, T-Wolves have size, T-Wolves have Ant-Man, T-Wolves have rest, Warriors have experience. Warriors, also have I gotta think a super confident Buddy Hield marksman coming out of this. I mean, guys, it doesn't. Wiggins was not the greatest rebounder of all time, but he was the year they won the title. So we don't need Buddy Hield to be the best player of all time. We just need him to be the best player for the next 3 weeks. And what do you guys think?
And in fact, they won this tonight without GP2 with the defense that he would have contributed. I wonder what's going on with him. Hopefully, I wonder if it's the same thing Kuminga had. If it's hopefully it doesn't run through the team. I just think Tuesday night is going to be. I look for it to be one of 2 ways. Either the T-Wolves are just cold because they haven't played in almost a week, and it takes them a while to get going, and the Warriors have some energy off this game and get up on the lead, or the T-Wolves are so fresh they blow the Warriors off the court in the first half, and then the Warriors just kind of mail in game one and say, okay, we'll try and get game two. That's how
I'm getting some tunes. Is somebody on like a celebrity cruise or something? That I'm not.
I think it has. I think it might be Carl's.
Carl, are you? Where are you? Are you like in Atlantis or something? Where are you?
No. That's my jazz playing in the background. Hold on.
All right. That's all right. No, keep it. I just want. It's all right. I just was. It was definitely setting a mood.
Yeah. So I'm really worried about this series. I will say that I definitely will be emotionally hedging and betting on the T-Wolves because I saw the line already. I'm expecting it to move a lot. It's only T-Wolves minus 155. You factor in home court and like the fact that the Warriors are off no rest and guaranteed almost a loss in game one. I don't know about you guys. The biggest thing is for me, every game is just what do Jimmy and Steph look like at this point? Because those guys are both beat to hell, and it seems like they're both kind of running on fumes. They both have some injuries they're dealing with. At times today, Butler and Steph, they did enough to get it done, but it reminded me honestly of watching Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk versus the Chiefs versus L'Jarius Sneed and whatever the other dude was in Trent McDuffie in that Super Bowl where they just could not get open. They could not get open. There's times where Butler has it in the post versus Van Vliet. And it's like, we've been watching that all regular season. You put a smaller guy on Butler, he's just going to get to a spot, rise up. It's just guaranteed. And he was having trouble. He really was. And so I worry a little bit about those guys. I don't know how much stock you put into Steph always does his routines before the games. And I've never seen so much throughout this series, people have been posting videos of Steph warming up and just clanking 3-4 threes in a row. I saw before this game, he was doing his pregame handle routine, and I've never seen it so loose. He's just losing the ball, just nobody on him, just losing the ball, and then put up an air ball three. I think that thumb, I know he changed the wrapping at halftime. I think that's given him some trouble. So I don't know. I think we go as far as those guys go.
And I'll say this relative to the series. There's two things. One, I'm absolutely on the other side of the farm than Ryan. When it gets to be playoff time, yes, the Knicks, the cuts, they have an impact. But it'd be one thing if that was on one of the young players, somebody who could get impacted by that. It's the mental grind to recognize that you're going to get opportunities. You've got to pick your opportunities. Jimmy and Steph tonight were 15 for 28 from the floor.
Yeah.
A lot of people wouldn't see that. Steph only had 2 turnovers tonight. Draymond had 1 turnover tonight. They had 7 as a team. I mean, if they're handling the ball that well against a team that's a better defensive team than Minnesota. Minnesota is a good defensive team because they have a couple of guys who can really defend in McDaniels and when he wants to, and Edwards. But there are going to be a few more holes because you're going to be able to know Rudy's in drop coverage, which means you're going to be able to run pick and roll with Dre or Jimmy and get Steph open shots. Mike Conley's going to spend a lot of time on Steph in this series, but he's not a grabber like Van Vliet is. So, and McDaniels doesn't guard the same way that Amen Thompson guards. So I think Steph's going to have a great series in this next round. Jimmy's going to be able to find the mid-range a lot better because Steven Adams and Sengun did a great job in that zone of being able to take away that middle area until tonight when they really just put so much coverage on Steph. They treated him like he was Tyreek Hill and running slant routes. He took away so much coverage that the Warriors were able to get a little bit more freedom in that zone. There are 2 players that are going to decide the series for the Warriors. Moses Moody, and let's see if you can guess the next one, Dan. Who's the other guy that's going to really make this series, make the decision on this series?
If you say Willie Adamas, I'm going to mute you.
No.
Moody and, geez, I don't know where you're going with this, but
Odds,
He
I'm
played
guessing.
tonight, but he only
I think-
played for about 2 minutes.
Post?
Quentin Post. Because Houston was able to
Look at that.
scheme-
Now that is good knowledge. Oh, go
They
ahead.
were able to scheme situations for Post in games 5 and game 6 to literally render him useless defensively. Minnesota doesn't do the same. If I'm playing against Minnesota, I'm playing boxes and elbows. I'm going to play like the Lakers played, except I'm going to stick with it. I don't believe they can consistently hit over 16 threes in a game, which means Ant Edwards and Randall are going to go one-on-one a lot, and we have the ability to guard both of them enough to make them work. Draymond is going to have a great series against him because I think Jimmy's going to end up guarding the big fella. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun watching Post step out. I expect him to maybe be able to average about 9 to 11 points this series. And if that can happen, they can end up stealing game 1. I don't go with they're going to be tired. It's playoff time, man.
I think
You're
one-
going to get your rest.
One thing I think, the next round is going to be pressure in a different way. Houston could apply more defensive pressure than Minnesota. Minnesota applies more pressure by the fact that they're so much better offensively
Correct.
that you feel the pressure to keep up with them. And you can't have as many wasted trips down floor because they're going to score a certain number of points. Before Danny jumps in, they just flashed the series stats, Warriors Rockets. Let's guess on this here. Which team had the better field goal percentage in the series?
Houston.
Which team had the better 3-point field goal percentage in the series?
Houston. They shot less of them. And Van
Which
Vliet-
team grabbed more rebounds?
Oh,
per
Houston
game?
by far.
Houston 46.9 to 39.6. Which team had more assists per game?
Houston.
Warriors.
No, Warriors 24.3 assists per game, 19.6 for the Rockets. Warriors also had more steals per game, 8.4 to 7.9. Rockets had more blocks per game, 5.1 to 4.9.
The Rockets
Points-
had more turnovers.
Points in the paint.
Rockets.
Points in the paint. Free throw percentage.
Warriors.
Yeah, 77 to 70. And the Warriors, of course, win the series in 7. Interesting, though. The Rockets had the better field goal percentage, the better three-point percentage, and out-rebounded the Warriors decisively, and yet lost the series in 7.
Tonight, I was just going to say real quick, tonight the rebounds were pretty heavily in favor of the Rockets, but it didn't seem that way for some reason.
I was actually going to
watching
make
the
that
game.
exact point, Dan. Yeah, it did not feel. It felt like they did a great job gang rebounding tonight. But yet they won it by 14.
Yeah.
Very surprising. Some supers. Let's hit a couple supers here. Grant says, "Welp, Cyrus, thank God Kerr played Kuminga to save us. You owe Steve an apology."
Oh, you better
Yeah,
save
Cy-
that one.
I mean, Cy went off on that. I mean, I agreed with Cy as far as I do think Kuminga is being wasted, and I do blame the Warriors. Why? Because you know what? This isn't a football season. This is a basketball season. There's so much time. You have so many games that don't really matter that you can play with in the preseason, in the early season, throughout this endless, regular season, trying every possible formation and grouping to see what you liked. And if there was a chance that Kerr was going to yank Kuminga's sheets in the playoffs and not play him at all, you needed to trade him for something at the deadline to get nothing out of Kuminga and nothing from what Kuminga's value is, and you're going to try to win a title. Why bother going for Jimmy Butler if you're then going to put an arm behind your back and say, take your lottery pick, most athletic player, and say, we have no role for you whatsoever, no minutes at all? I just think that they mismanaged that. I love Steve. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not like Cy. I don't want him fired. I think Kerr is a great coach. But if he were sitting here I would say, Steve, in my opinion, who am I, right? Who am I? But in my opinion, there was never a chance that you guys were ever going to win this title if you don't get your young guys, most notably Jonathan and Moses, going, and in your rotation, doing something really positive for you. And we're here, and they don't have Kuminga going. So
here would be the question.
Yeah.
Tell me what Jonathan Kuminga does great.
I don't know if he does anything great, but he's the most athletic guy in the league.
Don't tell me how athletic he is, because it's not decathlon. What in basketball?
Defensive. He's a good defensive player. When he's on man-on-man, one-on-one.
If he wants to, he could lock up anybody.
If he wants to.
I'm just saying. And we've seen at times he wants to.
Think about what you just said.
I'm just saying, I don't know him, Carl. Like, I don't know what his issue is. He could be the greatest guy. He could be the worst guy. I don't know. But I'm just saying, there have been times I've seen him lock up guys defensively, and I'm like, wow.
Have you seen him lock up somebody like Amen Thompson locks up people?
No. Amen Thompson seems to have it a little bit more solid consistency. But I think Kuminga's bigger and stronger.
They are great individual lockdown defenders. Jonathan Kuminga gives you a lot of defensive energy, but he reaches a lot, he stumbles a lot, and then he has no clue what's happening behind the ball.
Correct.
When you have a player like that, you can't trust him. And if I can't trust you, I can't put you in the most vulnerable situations. His best skill is going downhill.
Yeah.
During any of the playoff games that he's played in, did he look good going downhill?
No. At times he looked okay as far as getting to the rack, but you know what? A lot of those in the regular season, what makes him, kind of something the Warriors didn't have before they got Jimmy was he gets to the free throw line. He puts like refs in conflict by going to the rim so much and drawing a lot of fouls. But in the playoffs, they stopped calling those. Yeah. So instead, he's just bricking layups constantly.
Right.
And still asking for fouls. Yeah. He asks for more fouls than Draymond does.
Yeah.
And Draymond has at least earned the right to try to ask for one. I get it.
But Carl, what I'm saying is just that they only have 2 opportunities for Steph to win a title left in our Steph Curry lifetime in the NBA, and you're wasting one of them because you couldn't decide what to do with Kuminga. It's okay that Kuminga doesn't have these strengths or doesn't have these skills. It's okay. But you either have to identify that he can help you and find a role, or move him for play, because you could move him
for
guys.
What?
Well, here's the issue.
Like $8 million.
Here's the issue. He was playing really
pretty attractive.
He was playing really well at the right before the trade deadline, and then he got that high ankle sprain, and the Warriors did not have Jimmy Butler. When Butler came back, when they got Butler, they were hoping Kuminga would be able to adapt when he came back, but the offense somewhat changed with the Warriors becoming more of a, slowing it down on the half-court offense, putting the ball in Jimmy's hands instead of, the old Warriors system was always move the ball, and somebody's going to be open. I don't think Jonathan Kuminga actually knew what to do with this new offense that was put in, because it was kind of focused around Jimmy a lot. And Kuminga gets very confused with the screens and the sets and where to be. And, sometimes you could see Steph get upset with him because he's like, and he's calling him to set a screen, and Kuminga doesn't know what to do. But I'll tell you what, it's not all lost, because someone's going to sign him, and the Warriors are going to match it and sign and trade, and they will get some value for Kuminga back.
Eventually, they're going to get some value, but they're not getting anything in the present, and you're wasting one of Steph's 2 remaining years.
Here would be the question, Larry. What player, let's say it was a straight-up deal, not a 3-way deal, not a multiplayer deal. What player could you get who's making somewhere between $6 and $8 million, which is what Kuminga makes, that's going to have an impact?
I mean, you could have gotten Keegan Murray probably. I bet you this offseason you could probably get Keegan Murray and Valanciunas or something. I mean, yeah, I'm just saying.
Valanciunas you didn't need.
But I'm just saying you could get some role players, but guys who are a little bit more. I mean, obviously Kerr wants guys who are more skilled, and this guy can get up and down with the best in the league, but he wants guys that are more dependable, that they a little bit more skilled, and a guy better shooters. I think a guy like Keegan Murray with the Warriors would probably be very effective. But all I'm saying is
the Kings weren't
they blew this one because it's like they didn't
blow it. He's gonna get moved.
No, I know, but they blew this year. They're getting nothing out of him and nothing out of what they could have gotten. It's like somebody like seeing your buddy being poor, but you knew he had a lottery ticket. He just hasn't cashed it in right or whatever.
But if you couldn't get a deal now, if they could have included him in the deal for Jimmy and kept Wiggins, if he were making $24 million, not $6 million, and they could have included him, they'd have traded him in a heartbeat to Miami.
Yeah.
So
Carl, kept Wiggins.
And they tried.
Joe loves Kuminga though.
They tried. Kuminga was in the hypothetical KD deal that was getting traction. He was going to go there, but no, Carl. I think what's going to happen? He's going to get signed. They're going to sign and trade him this offseason, so his salary's going to go up. And I actually think
he's going to get 30 plus.
I mean, if he gets 30 plus, look, trade him back to Miami. Trade him to Miami. Bring Wiggins back. Hell, Pat Riley might even throw in a pick for that. I mean, that's Wiggins isn't doing anything for Miami. I wouldn't mind.
Who's to say that that's not something on the table? But the challenge is Jonathan Kuminga does not know how to play basketball the way the Warriors play basketball, and they've given him 4 years.
Correct.
In the regular season, you'll have a lot of games. We have a lot of trash games in an 82-game regular season where guys can just ball out. But when it comes, as Draymond probably said it better than anybody I've ever heard. He said there's a difference between players that are built for the regular season of 82 games and players that are built for the 16 to get 16 wins. Jonathan's not built to get 16 wins because Jonathan's mentality is he wants to be a Kobe Bryant type offensive engine. This isn't the place where he could be that. He doesn't have the skills for it. He's not a natural scorer. He's an
Carl, do you think that I said on the show the other night that I think that Steve wouldn't just bench Kuminga, that I'm sure that he's at least discussed it with Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, and that I would imagine that if those guys really wanted Kuminga to be playing, Kuminga would be playing. That's the way I feel about it.
And let's be honest, everybody sits in the film room. There's not one coach on the bench. They have like 7 people over there. All these people are breaking down the analytics. They're all seeing the film. Kuminga sees the film. A really smart basketball player can find a way to contribute when they're not scoring baskets. There was a play tonight. I'm not picking on him. But there was a play tonight where there was a defensive rebound available. He didn't block out. He didn't jump up to get it. Steven Adams got it, kicked it out to Jabari Smith, who drained a tray ball.
That was brutal.
You remember the play?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kuminga came off the floor right after that.
Yep.
Why? Not because they don't like the kid. This is not a personal thing. It's about winning. And if I want to win, Moses Moody did not come back in late in the game. We know how solid and steady he could be, but he wasn't shooting it well. He looked a little bit uncomfortable on some of his shots. Guess what? He still competed. He still got after loose balls, but they stayed with a guy that the average fan, by the way, I'm so happy for Buddy for this reason. I've seen so many posts on every site, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, X, where people trash Buddy Hield. I'm like, do they understand Buddy Hield was one of the 10 players in the league this year who hit 200 threes? And then what did he do tonight after shooting badly for 2 nights? He came and said, hey, I got it tonight. Roll with me, coach. So it's bad.
How would you describe Buddy? Because he's maddening if you watch him. Kings fans could speak to it. Warriors fans can speak to it. But this is also in him. And all basketball fans who know the skill sets of these players know that Buddy's got this in him. He's got it in him to just rain down a bunch of threes. He's a 40+% career NBA three-point shooter. This guy, he has hoisted a ton in his career, but he makes a lot. I mean, he makes a high percentage, which is why he's in the league, and why the Warriors were attracted to him. I mean, he's maddening, he's frustrating, but he can do what he did tonight, and I think everybody understands that. It doesn't come out very much, but I mean, for tonight, this is the greatest game of his career, easily.
Yeah, now the T-Wolves are going to be paying attention to him. That's another great thing.
Yeah.
They just need somebody that they have to respect the three. I don't think teams in the league respect Brandon Podziemski from three. I think Podziemski, he can get hot and he has a lot of moxie and he does other stuff. But I mean, even today, Podziemski had a lot of wide open threes that he just absolutely bricked.
He doesn't get his shot off fast enough he can't get his shot off fast enough and have it be down. I mean, he really likes to get a real look at it. When he gets an extended look at it and he can really measure it up and slow everything down. But if he's got to shoot it quick in small windows, I'd love to see the percentage on those attempts. It can't be good. He was 1 for 7 tonight. Length bothers him. There's no reason not to close out on him because what's he doing? He absolutely can't finish at the rim. So I don't understand the fascination with Podziemski. I know he's a good rebounder. I do like that part of his game.
He's a basketball player, Larry.
Yeah,
Coaches
but I mean,
love players like him.
I know.
You know exactly what you're going to get. The charge he took, the tough rebounds,
that's a good
the dig outs, the drives with the floater. Even though he didn't shoot it well tonight from deep, he got in the lane a few times. You know what you're going to get. And as a coach, think about Steve Kerr's bloodline as a basketball player. Lute Olson, Phil, and Pop. They like basketball players. They love smart, heady players. It's why Steve Kerr loves Guy Santos. He looks at him and he sees Judd Buechler. This is a guy I know what I'm going to get. And you ask guys to fit in the boxes. That's the one thing the average fan probably doesn't see a lot. NBA players fit in certain boxes. Some guys can fit in multiple boxes because they can do different things. Steph Curry, on a night he's not shooting well, grabbed 10 rebounds tonight. He had 7 assists.
2 blocks, 2 steals.
And a 7-to-2 assist to turnover ratio, 3.5 to 1, is huge because that's a winning formula. Sometimes we get so strung up during playoff season on how players perform in the losses. I looked up yesterday, somebody was just telling me how great Larry Bird was, and I loved LB. But Larry Bird had games where he scored 4 points in a playoff game, where he couldn't make shots because sometimes you lose. But you want to know who can I count on it tonight? Think of the steal that Steph got late against Sangoon when he had his back turned. It was late in the game. They were trying to make a push, and he steals a shot attempt away because he snuck up on him and took it away, and they held another possession.
Well, Carl, I'll give you 2 more possessions that I can't remember exactly where they were sprinkled in, but Steph, got basically just all he had was a step on his guy, and he just one-handed it off the glass all the way in, taking the for sure twos that the defense was giving him, trying to close out on his threes. It's like what he knows when you got a lead in the fourth quarter, just get the safe twos. And he got, a couple of real high percentage drives in the fourth quarter of this game. I thought those were huge.
He shot 2 free throws, 2, and that was late in the fourth quarter. The guy's being held like he's Moondog Maine going up against Rocky Johnson in the WWF.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It's embarrassing, Rye, that Steph Curry, like you say, Larry, We're talking about one of the two biggest ambassadors of the game, he and LeBron. And LeBron shot what, about 18 free throws in their last game?
In the first half, he had 18.
At some point, there has to be some justice. I really believe in this series, you're going to find out that they're not going to let the grabbing and holding go, because they're going to want to see, can Minnesota beat Golden State? Steph Curry should average 10 free throws a game every game that he's ever played.
He was 22 tonight, 10 assists, or was it 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 for 2 on the. So he was 50, 40, 100.
I don't even think Steph gets as good of calls as Jimmy. Jimmy gets better calls than Steph.
Oh, Jimmy's a master at it. I do. So, okay, looking forward to this this matchup. Like my brain, I haven't even like emotionally really let myself until like this post game literally started. Like think about this next round, because I've just been so focused on the Rockets. Like I don't. How do you guys see this like playing out matchup wise? I mean, watching the Lakers series, one thing that stood out was that was the best series I've ever seen Julius Randle play. He was honestly pretty incredible, and he was playing within the offense. I thought Edwards is not. I mean, as much as people like to talk about him, kind of in this like Kobe, Michael Jordan-esque thing, like he really lets the game kind of come to him now. There was a couple games where maybe he only had 20 points. He had a ton of assists. He plays within the offense. I mean, the guy also led the league in threes this year. He's basically, outside of Steph, he's basically as lethal as it comes on volume threes. I mean, Jaden McDaniels is an unreal defender. Nickeil Alexander Walker is an unreal defender. It's a lot of size. Naz Reid, I think, shot 120% effective field goal percentage in the fourth quarters. They're a better shooting team than the Warriors.
Except in the series that they played this year, none of which Jimmy played in,
True.
The Warriors went 3-1.
Correct.
The key thing is how the Warriors defend is very different than how the Lakers defend, because they have 4 guys that you can pick on. And because of that, they had to start playing kind of a matchup zone at boxes and elbows, and they were really focused in on Ant Edwards. If I'm playing against Minnesota, they have a 2-man punch, and then they have 2 auxiliary guys that can score. McDaniel's a lot better scorer than people want to get a dude credit for, but he's not going to be the guy to kill you. The question is, how would you guard Julius, and how do you guard Ant? I personally would not double Ant. I'd put my best defenders out there on him, Moody, GP2 if he's available. If it's switch opportunities, I don't mind Jimmy or Dre switching on him. I just don't want them hunting Steph or hunting Buddy, so that he can just use his size and athleticism to just shoot over the top of him. And I would put my focus on Draymond. Your job is to make Julius Randle shoot a poor percentage. That's it. Don't send him a double. Don't send no help. If Jimmy's guarding him, send no help. Make Julius Randle go right and trust him to take a lot of bad shots, which will include some bad tray balls. I think they have a lot of matchups that can be exploited, but anytime you got Michael Conley over there, they're going to be around when it comes late.
You can't let Ant just have a parade to the line. One of those games, he was like 17 free throw attempts. You got to defend him without fouling him. Defend him as well as you can on his drives, but make him shoot it, and don't just send him to the foul line. I'd like to see him finish those inside. It's going to be an interesting series too, because this Minnesota team, they've got a lot of guys who can rebound the basketball. I mean, you've got a big front line. You really do. I mean, you got Randall, you got Gobert, and then McDaniels is a good rebounder. So, and Edwards is a good rebounder. I mean, Edwards is the best athlete in the series. I mean, he is just an amazing athlete. And he's obviously young and in his prime, but Jaden McDaniels, they got to keep Jaden McDaniels off the glass, because he's only 185 pounds, but he's just so slithery and quick, and he gets rebounds by just attacking relentlessly.
Who do you guys, Dan and Rye, see having an impact coming off the Warriors bench? Who are your 2 or 3 guys that I believe this series is built for them?
I mean, you got in my head about Quentin Post. I'm a little up and down on Post. I mean, I thought he showed phenomenal effort early in this series, and it seemed like his legs, just from like battling with Steven Adams, which I think is just something he's not used to, his legs were kind of gone, and he was leaving pretty much all his shots short, missing some threes pretty badly. But he also like had some pretty decent playmaking. He had some decent passes. I mean, he threw a lob pass at one point. I honestly, I am not really sure. I'm kind of prepared for, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Guy Santos get some run.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. I mean, this seems like it's going to have to be a Looney series. There's times where Looney looked pretty old, but still, when it comes to like Steph getting blitzed, Looney and GP2 are kind of the only guys that it seems like good things happen when Steph gets blitzed and he has to get it out to somebody. I liked how Looney, even though he played like 11 minutes today, it seemed like he played a lot more. And there was back-to-back possessions where Steph had to give it up, and Looney went into the lane, got a layup, and then I think the next possession went in, got fouled, hit his free throws, and that was just huge. I don't know. I mean, Moses Moody. I think Moses Moody actually will guard a little bit better in this series. I think he's a good defender. He's really long, he's big, and he competes. His feet don't move as quick as I would like. There was a lot of times where he was getting blown by even like Van Vliet. I think he was having trouble staying in front of some of the Houston guards. I think versus some of these bigger guards, I think he'll have a little bit of a better showing. I think Kuminga still is like a question mark. Like, I don't know. I want to see like how much run Kuminga ultimately gets. I don't really think we're going to see Trace Jackson Davis. Hell, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of Pat Spencer.
A little Pat Spencer. A couple supers here. James Foster. Curry is gassed and hurt. We need Jonathan Kuminga and Moody bad. 49er George 365 says, I was sweating during those scoreless 3 minutes in the second half. Yeah, the Warriors didn't score for about a 3-minute and 40-second period of the second half. MSQ says, how will Golden State fare versus a well-rounded T-Wolves team?
Hey, that's pretty clever to get all that in for $2. You squeezed it out.
Look at that. I don't think there's a character limit, Dan. I think he's just...
Yeah, there is. There is. For $1.99, that's about as many as you get for each level.
You're paying by character, huh?
Yeah. You want to write a lot, you got to pay a lot more.
We've been discussing that, actually. HR says Clay should have took the bench role and stayed. Yeah. It's easy to say.
Yeah.
Bill M says nobody owes Kerr an apology. He owes Buddy. MSQ, how many years do you give until the Kerr-Curry duo retires? I would say definitely one more after this year. I would say at least one more. But I would say probably just one more. That would be my guess.
Steph's got 2 years on his contract, and I think he plays a couple years beyond that at least.
We got this one from Michael. The adjustment was leaving Quentin Post on the bench. Yeah, Red was calling for that after Game 6. He was like, hey, Quentin Post is an absolute awful defender and needs to be on the bench. And they were giving Quentin Post probably a little too much rope. Let's just say that. We got this one from MSQ. Oh, he said, now Curry knows how LeBron feels when his help is limited.
When was LeBron's help ever limited?
Yeah, LeBron's gone from awesome.
You could maybe say 2018, that team was a little limited, but they also were playing in the Cakewalk East.
Maybe he's referring to his Oakland Soldiers days. Maybe he felt like Carl didn't surround him with enough. Maybe that's,
I think
that's a direct shot at Carl.
I think this off the bench for the Warriors. I think Braxton Key's going to be I think.
Well, what were we doing? Last post game, there was talk of Kevin Knox and Braxton Key getting playing time.
Yeah,
I threw out Knox because Knox I thought could score. He could score, and there's no question he scored a lot for the Warriors in the G League. I'm just saying, the Warriors need to find. This is why tonight's Buddy Hield thing was so incredible. If the Warriors can find somebody that's not Steph or Jimmy that can pile up a bunch of points, whether it's post on threes, Moody in the corner, Kuminga, Buddy Hield, anybody that can give them big points, I think is incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Right?
What I wanted to kind of say about this series, the Warriors played the T-Wolves 4 times, and they started the first game December 6th, and then the 8th, and then December 21st, and then January 15th. They won 3 of the 4. The T-Wolves won the first game 107-90, and then the Warriors won 114-106, 113-103, and 116-115. The T-Wolves did not really start becoming a cohesive team until like late in the season, because they had all that trade in the beginning of the year, and they were a mess. There was talk that DiVincenzo was on the ropes and they were ready to get rid of him because he started off so bad. So this is a completely different T-Wolves team.
Randall was not fitting in and then got injured. Right. I don't know if Randall was out for some of those games. And since he came back, he's been awesome.
This is a scary team. It's one of the teams I picked to win.
Guys, I see smoke coming from underneath the door in the green room. Seriously. I see billowing smoke coming from underneath the door. Seriously, I expect the fire thing to go off any second.
Call SFPD or FD.
Why don't we before we welcome in our next contributor? Let me just tell you, because we got rolling today. We never even thanked our sponsors. The Krueg Show is brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being a title sponsor of the Krueg Show. And the show is sponsored by LearnKey Upskill Academy, an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. So whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, could be any high demand field, they offer 30 different certification programs to help you take that next step in your professional career. So they've got flexible online learning and industry recognized certifications. You can build skills that make you a more valuable you. So the links are in the description below for all of our sponsors, and thanks to all of them for being proud sponsors of the Krueg Show. And without further ado, we welcome in a man who went at Steve Kerr pretty hard after Game 6. Probably owes him an apology. We'll see if he does, or if he'll offer an apology. I get the sense if we urge him enough, we might be able to get Cy to apologize to Kerr.
How about that Grant super chat again?
What's that?
How about that Grant super chat to get things going? The first one.
Oh yeah. Welp, Cyrus, thank God Kerr played Kuminga to save us. You owe Steve an apology.
And without further
ado, a man who's here to apologize to Steve Kerr, Cyrus Satsis.
You're right. F that. Carl, great to see you, brother.
What's happening?
Been a while, man. Good stuff. Hello,
Miss
everybody.
you, Cy.
Good to see you.
Cy, what'd you think? You were rough on Steve. I was too, a little bit.
You call that rough? He makes $18 million a year. He's in a position of incredible privilege and power. And my words, this nobody right here, is being rough. No,
you were banging on him pretty good.
Yeah, I am. I'm the only one.
Oh, wait. Sorry about that. There we go. Do you want to apologize to Steve?
No. Hell no.
Even a little bit?
No. Hell no. If I had the power to fire him today, I'd still do it. But I will say this. Buddy Hield.
I love a man who doubles down.
He doubles down.
Bravo, man.
Splitting his aces.
I mean, look, the Warriors, Kerr finally in Game 7, after rolling the dice, I don't know how many games with Buddy Hield, he finally crapped or hit whatever the number is that he had the marker on, an 8 or whatever it is. Congratulations. You got what you looked for in Game 7. Should not have never gotten to this point. Okay, like this should not have been a situation today. I am relieved and thankful and grateful that we don't have to face a summer of talking points regarding a 3-1 deficit that Stephen Curry blew again. Like, I was not looking forward to that. Like, I was cringing thinking about that because the seeds from the LeBron fans and the Steph haters were being planted everywhere for that 3-1 deficit. And we were this close. So, no, I'm not going to absolve Steve Kerr for getting this close to the Warriors being upset in round 1. But Buddy Hield, man, that's a whole other talking point because he was fantastic. I'm sure you've exhausted that to no end. But
no, we haven't even mentioned him yet. No. We like to get deeper into some of the finer points. We've been talking about the zone versus Buddy Hield. Obviously Buddy Hield is the headliner tonight and the greatest game of Buddy's career. And Rye made the point that maybe, it was the kind of performance where, he may actually demonstrate a little gravity on the basketball floor in the Game 1 Warriors T-Wolves. Look for Buddy to have some guys running at him because of this performance. I was kind of hoping for like the bigger hope, which is that could Buddy get hot the way that Wiggins got hot as far as a rebounder? Could Buddy get hot shooting the 3-ball? And if he did, I mean, could he carry the Warriors to the title?
What's that noise, by the way? Why is there like music or something humming? Do you guys hear that?
Carl's got a little music going in the background.
No big deal. We're just doing a broadcast, and Carl's got his TV on in the background. No big deal.
It's not a TV.
Wait. Jazz music. Jazz music.
Just a little jazz.
Calm everybody down.
It's just a little jazz.
Can you
right?
can you span the camera so we could see the masseuse?
Gotcha.
I wish my wife didn't go for that.
But dude, I what are you guys just thinking about? Like the one thing Rick and I did not really get too into. So I don't know if like I timed this right or how much you've talked about this. We did not really preview Warriors T-Wolves. Like what do you guys think about that? Like have you?
We've already covered it.
Oh, so it's over. Okay. Well, great show.
Sorry, we
Thanks
can't
for having
do
me. I appreciate it.
No. Yeah, we covered it. Can't talk about it again. That was in the first semester. This is now in the second semester.
Rye, I want to give Rye credit because a few months ago, I don't know if Rye you tweeted it or you DM me. I can't remember what the context was, but you did say that you were afraid of the T-Wolves and you did not want the Warriors to play them. And my response to you at the time was the Warriors won the season series 3-1. Like relax a little bit on the panic button. But I'm going to backtrack now because those 4 games were so long ago and Minnesota is a completely different team, like night and day, man. Like Julius Randle has figured it out. Dante DiVincenzo is back to being the Dante everyone knows. Anthony Edwards is Anthony Edwards. And side note, the reason why you'll never get an apology from me for Steve Kerr unless they win the championship, then I'm getting a goddamn tattoo.
Well, are you thinking about later tonight? Maybe apology.
I'll think about it.
You got to tease the apology side. That's how we're going to have some attention for later.
That's fair. Maybe you guys will convince me.
If we get a certain number of super chats, Cy will apologize.
Again, if the Warriors win the title, I'm getting a goddamn tattoo on my body of Steve Kerr. So that is where I will acknowledge Steve Kerr's greatness, and I will admit that I'm wrong.
That's like TMI right there. That's a little, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that might.
If I said I was going to put it on like my penis, I would say that's TMI. But the fact that I didn't say that until just now, and then now it's TMI. It wasn't TMI 10 seconds ago. Anyway,
note to Kev at 1 hour and 9 minutes and 7 seconds. We'd like to have an edit in the show at 1 hour, 9 minutes and 7 seconds. Thanks, Kev. Edit in the show.
Fantastic executive producer, by the way, Kevin.
See how I did that? Just
it's
amazing. It's an amazing thing.
But the T-Wolves scare me is what I'm trying to say, man. Like they do scare me a little bit. And Steve Kerr, the reason why I brought that up again in terms of why I will not apologize, the Warriors could have had Anthony Edwards. They don't have Anthony Edwards because of Steve Kerr. I'm not letting that go. My entire issue with Steve Kerr is where's the accountability for mishap after mishap after mishap? There never is any. The guy can just do no wrong. I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that they blew it with Anthony Edwards, and now they might lose to him. This is why.
Can I ask this question, son?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How could they have had Anthony Edwards?
Because the Timberwolves wanted to swap picks with him, and Steve Kerr, when he evaluated Anthony Edwards. Why are you shaking your head? Why are you shaking your head at me?
That's not true.
Brian Windhorst reported that as a fact. So you're saying he's a liar?
That's not true. Brian Windhorst doesn't have facts because he's not a GM. He can tell you something somebody told him.
How do you know it's not true, though?
It's not true.
How do you know? How do you know, Carl?
Okay, so from what I
it's your opinion. Okay, that's your opinion. All right,
it's not my opinion.
I
know Brian.
How do you know?
My sources tell me.
So you're telling me your sources are you have sources that are more reliable?
Okay, first of all, let's break this. Let's break this up. Word around the HOA is that no, I was just either way. I'll say this: we don't whether they could have had him or not. They had the second pick. They could have had him or LaMelo. Instead, they went with the marshmallow known as
Larry. Don't let this go. Larry, don't let this go. Carl, why are you saying that? Like, what are you basing that
on?
Why
you said Brian Windhorst has a fact. You can't have a fact.
Why are you calling him a liar? Because he stated it like it's a fact. So why are you accusing Windhorst of lying about this?
You didn't hear me say he's lying?
You told me it's not true.
No, what I told you is that's not true. I didn't tell you what Brian Windhorst said isn't true. What he said is what he was told.
So how do you know what he was told?
When you're not making a decision and you're being told something, you can only go by what you're being told.
Okay, so why do you think what he was told wasn't true?
It's not true.
Why? Why do you say that?
I don't have a why for you.
Okay, then how am I supposed to? How can I take you seriously in this, Carl? If you're not going to answer the why part of it, that's the most important part.
There is no why.
Okay, well then, all right.
Carl doesn't want to give up his source, and there you go. He obviously has a source.
How do you say? You say obviously. I didn't even hear he has a source. Like what? It's not.
Well, he's not just stating it. He's stating it definitively, and we know Carl's not the general manager for either team.
I'm not the general manager of either team.
So, do you have a source that's told you otherwise, Carl?
Here's what I'll tell you: Anthony Edwards plays for the Timberwolves.
Yes,
and they drafted him.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm willing to get into a little more.
Carl, did you know water's wet? I mean,
I do know sky's blue, and I know if you have the number 2 pick, you can't take the number 1 player.
You can. There was
no doubt that Minnesota was going to take the number 1 player.
Why do you believe that?
Okay.
What's going on here, man? Carl, you're a smart, intelligent person. Why are you acting like I'm asking?
Remember, you're not Brian Windhorst.
I'm not.
No. So
you're not Cyrus. I don't get what any of this. What's happening here, man? What's going on, Carl?
Okay. I think. Okay, let me get into some speculation because I will openly speculate because I have no sources and I listen to a lot of podcasts. What I heard is that, well, first of all, I heard even if the Warriors had traded up, they were still going to take Wiseman. Wiseman was the guy, and the T-Wolves were trying to bait the Warriors into thinking they were going to take Wiseman. Because the T-Wolves were butthurt that the Warriors got their 2021 pick in that D'Angelo Russell trade, and the T-Wolves wanted that pick back. So they were trying to bait, which ended up becoming Kuminga. They wanted to bait the Warriors into trading up and still taking their guy Wiseman. But and this is where I'll maybe a little bit of a different take. I think there was just no chance the Warriors were going to take Edwards, and I don't blame Steve Kerr.
Why, Rye?
I blame Anthony Edwards. Because he showed up and Bob Myers said it, Steve Kerr said it, even Anthony Edwards said it. He showed up and he didn't have a good workout.
You're just going to absolve Kerr because Anthony Edwards had a bad workout, a 20-year-old kid. You're just going to pretend that Kerr should have no accountability for a wholehearted misjudgment of this guy? Like he called him lazy.
And he admitted that he said that was the turning point in his career.
So what? Steve Kerr couldn't see that maybe this kid can improve his work ethic. I don't believe this, dude. I mean,
Edwards has to take some responsibility for I mean, not
For what?
every I wasn't at the workout, so I have no idea what level we're talking about, right? For all I know, he was incredible, and this is all about nothing, or he was, literally smoking a pack of Cools on the sidelines, refusing to dribble. And I have I have no idea exactly what happened in this workout, why it didn't go well. But it sounds like Edwards has taken some ownage of the fact that he was not in a good space right then. And so I think
It wasn't that he didn't admit he wasn't in a good space. What he admitted to,
but I mean, also the Warriors didn't have that pick, so it's like it's hard. I have a hard time blaming the team that has the second pick for not picking the guy who went number one. Like, I don't blame the Niners for taking Trey Lance over Trevor Lawrence. I don't, because Trevor Lawrence went one.
Larry, what if you knew the Jaguars would swap with the Niners? And the Niners said, no, we just still want Trey Lance. So there's no point in doing that.
I mean, if I knew definitively, that would change things for sure.
All we can know in this world is what's reported. And this is why I'm going back to Carl saying, like, Carl, I don't understand this weird ambiguity.
Carl also has friends who are agents.
Folks, explain that then. Let's say that.
I don't have to explain anything. All I can tell you is what I said. Brian Windhorst is not a GM. He can be told something, but I will tell you, many reporters have been told something, and it was not the actual thing.
And I keep asking, how do you know that's not true? And you
Carl, just to alleviate this roadblock, I'm gonna jump in.
Give you an answer.
I'm gonna jump in
just because it's a lame answer. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's not a
ridiculous
answer. Carl
just
has,
because. What the fuck, man?
Wait. Carl has friends who are NBA agents.
So he can't explain that himself? Larry, you have to speak for him.
I don't need to explain that, sir.
But I'm just saying, it's like he doesn't.
I don't need to explain that.
It's a talk show.
If
you're not going to explain shit, what are you doing here, then, man? This is
we haven't even gotten into it.
All right. Just relax. Relax.
You're trashing Steve Kerr. You have the right to that opinion, but you're providing a source that you're an ear witness to information,
and
you're not an eyewitness. How do you know? You were not in the room.
How do you know? You were?
You weren't in the room, right?
Were you?
You said Brian Windhorst said that. You didn't say Cyrus said it.
Yes. And why are you attacking?
You are repeating something someone else said.
I'm asking
and you're hoping that it's a fact.
Carl, I'm asking you straight
question.
You
don't have to ask me. You can move on to the next subject.
I don't want to move on. This is my show too, Carl. This is my show as much as anyone else is here. If I want to ask you a fucking question, I'm going to ask you. And I'm asking you right now, why are you disparaging Brian Windhorst's credibility?
Did not disparage Brian Windhorst. I said Brian Windhorst is not a GM.
You're literally calling him a liar.
No, I didn't. If that's what you want to perceive, I'll allow you to perceive that.
Well, okay, let me rephrase the question then, since you're
Larry,
trying to do a semantics argument here.
Yeah,
why do you question?
Sorry. Let's not bog down the entire show on this one factoid.
Larry,
because
I can't
it doesn't really matter. We're not going anywhere.
No. I'm not going to let this go until at least get some sort of fucking conclusion here. Carl, why do you question Windhorst's source?
Hey, I will tell you this. I love the way Buddy shot the ball tonight.
This is fucking lame, dude. This is some lame ass shit, man. I'll leave it at that too then.
All right. We don't have to get to the bottom of everything. All right.
Get the jazz music back on.
This is what we do. I don't this is ridiculous.
But we don't have to get to the bottom of everything. I mean, once again, Carl has connections with agents. Windhorst reported this.
He's the only one. Carl, you're the only one that has connections here. You're the only one that has connections here.
Did you ever hear me say anything about a connection? Cyrus, have you heard me
mention one word about a connection? You haven't said anything. You're saying nothing, and that's why I'm frustrated.
All I said was Brian Windhorst is not a GM.
Why do you feel the need to say that?
All right, let's just move on. We don't need to find. I mean, it doesn't. Let's just go. It's a circular conversation. Seymour Butts says, "Belt to ass, Larry. What a win, Dubs in 6."
That's insane, dude. I do not. This is not a rational setting here right now, man. I don't get any of this, bro. But
let the jet fly. You can tell Jonathan Kuminga doesn't watch any film and doesn't have that dog in him. Okay, well, that's one of those. I'm not sure how to define that. MSQ says LBJ's longest tenured teammate was Big Z.
Zildrunas Ilgauskas.
Oh, Zildrunas Ilgauskas.
The former All-Star.
Was Clay?
Curry's was Clay and Green.
Oh, Steph Curry's was Clay and Green. I gotcha. Man. NBA Elias. OKC and Minnesota conference finals is a nightmare for the NBA. Ratings wise, yeah. Let the jet fly. Cy. Oh, what the heck? Somebody. This is like Lucky Logger or something. You remember?
I could read that. Cy, it's already known that Lacob wanted Wiseman even at 1.
You know who else wanted Wiseman even at 1? Steve Kerr. And if you want to,
and Bob Myers.
I wrote and Bob Myers too. Joe Lacob has made it very clear, and Steve Kerr has made it very clear. And if you disagree with this, then you're calling them liars in terms of what they've said publicly, that they all wanted James Wiseman. Steve Kerr publicly said that James Wiseman is, quote, his guy. All right. Lacob wanted him, no doubt. But Steve Kerr was smitten with this dude. He was as much into this guy as anyone else. And I still don't see accountability for that. I also don't see accountability for the fact that they gave up on the number 2 pick super fast. They're about to give up on the number 7 pick super fast. That's been my whole point of consternation here is how do you get away with treating these massively valuable assets like such shit? That's the part I don't stomach. This has nothing to do with Kuminga and how good or bad he is. It's about how do you get these assets that are insanely valuable and pretend that they don't mean a thing. And that's Steve Kerr's approach, and I don't like it. Ooh.
Yeah. Of course, I picked the Rockets to win in 7.
You did. How did you respond to that?
I don't know, but Brady Bryant says I'm a clown. I don't know if I'll ever be able to. I don't know if I'll ever be able to recover from Brady.
I'm a clown because I hear irrational things.
Is that a fact, Larry?
Yeah. Is it a fact? No, it's not a fact. It's Brady's opinion and his opinion only. All right. What do you guys think as far as, do you think that this series favors Minnesota? A lot of the dialogue was that, you know what? It doesn't matter what happens tonight in Game 7 because the fact that it went 7 and the Warriors, had no rest and they're just limping into this Lions den in the second round against this Minnesota team that's bigger and rested and this and that. Do you guys subscribe to that theory that the Warriors are going down in a big bad way in the second round and that it's going to be, they're going to pay for their inability to get out of the first round painlessly? Or do you think no, Golden State's gonna go through Minnesota and they're moving on to the conference finals? What do you think?
It's matchup driven. If we look at the game earlier today, you had an Indiana team that played for a long time in a series against Milwaukee, found a matchup, and then let's be honest, missing Winston was a huge impact for Cleveland, but playoff basketball is all about matchups. And in this matchup, the Warriors have a better chance of being able to do certain things than they could in the Houston series. And I love the fact that Minnesota has the ability to be offensive. The question is, will they be able to lock down, defend the Warrior system, and which role players are going to shoot the ball well?
Chris Finch is the head coach.
What do you guys think, Danny? What do you think?
I would favor the T-Wolves in this series. I think it. I hate to say it. It could be a bloodbath. I mean, they're not just like the Rockets as far as athletic. They're good shooters. They're got a good offense. They're big. They're long. They're more experienced. Naz Reid, McDaniels, Rudy Gobert is going to be a problem in the just sitting down there in the paint. But I'm not ruling the Warriors don't have no shot. I think the Warriors can pull it off if they're hot from three.
Got to split. We got to split these first two.
You got to get they got to get the split. They got to get the split in the first two.
And honestly, Carl is giving me hope because I did mentally kind of think that the legs are just a little too tired, and that this at least this first game is kind of like, I mean, just chalk it up to Minnesota. I mean, even in like, you know, right before I came on here, like I was listening to Curry's like post game on TNT, and he was just like, man, my brain is fried. Like I can't really. And he just started like naming Timberwolves players. And he's like, Gobert had 20 rebounds in that game. And it just felt like, you know, like they've just been locked into this series and now they got to go get on a flight. So I'm definitely worried. One thing that I'm very happy about and I'm very proud of is that before the playoffs started, maybe it was a week before the playoffs started, I was able to get a 30-1 on the Timberwolves to win the West.
Wow.
Not win the finals, win the West.
Wow.
So that makes me feel really good, which is a great emotional hedge.
That's good, Rye. I got 19-1. Dang.
In terms of entertainment, okay, we've seen Edwards now. Edwards, this is not at all really X's and O's, but Edwards, you know, he got up in Durant. He was barking at Durant, talking shit to Durant. Did the same thing to LeBron. Do you think Edwards is going to be do you think Edwards is going to be doing that to Curry? And B, how much of a Draymond crash out are we getting? Because we can't forget that when the game was 0-0 versus the Timberwolves a year ago, Draymond Green put Rudy Gobert in a full-blown headlock.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm so excited to see that. Draymond Green hates Rudy Gobert. I've been waiting for this matchup for a long time. And I mentioned this on the other first part. Anthony Edwards, I can't remember when this was. I think this was a year ago. It was a little while ago, but he was asked like, which team do you want to play in the postseason the most? And I don't know why that question even came up, but he answered the Warriors. And when he was asked why, he said because he's looking forward to a series where he can trash talk with Draymond Green. The Minnesota Timberwolves are very different from Houston, and one of the biggest differences is shooting. Houston has none, except for Fred VanVleet, who shows up every few games, and Minnesota has Anthony Edwards, who I believe led the NBA in three-pointers made this season. Crazy stat. That's insanely true. Jaden McDaniels is a little streaky, but when he's hitting them, you're in trouble. I don't know if Julius Randle's a three-point shooter, but I've seen him do it. But Naz Reid is the one that scares me the most, like by far, man. This is like, I mean, the Warriors are a small ball team. They, you know, and Larry, you and I had this discussion 2 days ago about the fact that when you're that short, it suddenly becomes very hard to present an obstacle to opposing shooters, right? Like and this is an example, like GP2 tonight did not play. And I think this was, as crazy as this may sound, advantageous for the Warriors because GP2 is a massive crutch for Steve Kerr. He gives that guy minutes over better players who are also more athletic and taller. And when GP2 is not in the game and you have bigger, taller players, it makes it harder for other teams to shoot. It's just a very simple premise. And Naz Reid kind of neutralizes that element. So he's a 7-footer who can drain threes, and he routinely lights it up against the Warriors. We saw what this team did against LA. Very different team than the Warriors, but still, they're big. They can shoot. They scare the shit out of me. I'm very curious to see how Steve Kerr handles this. I am, because I've said this before, and I'll say it again. A huge reason why I've agreed to put on a Steve Kerr tattoo if the Warriors win the championship this season is because if they're going to win a 5th ring in this era, Steve Kerr is going to have to coach them into it. All right. He can't skate by on talent like he has with a lot of these titles. He's going to have to play the right guys. He's going to have to implement the right schemes, and he's going to have to outcoach Chris Finch in this series. I'm fascinated. I'm riveted. Yeah, we shall see.
You sound skeptical that Kerr. You think Kerr's going to get outcoached. We got this one. MSQ. Cy is like an English teacher that is mad that Carl turned in an essay without a works cited page. Yes. LOL. Also saving money, not using the space bar. LOL.
And it's like if the student then, when I ask the student, why didn't you cite references? And the student says, trust me, bro. I would not. Anyways, move on. I'm
Anyway, what do you guys think as far as tonight goes? As far as is this something that there's going to be a lot of talk in Houston about Giannis. There's going to be a lot of talk in Houston about they can't shoot. Barkley was kind of setting it up at halftime with, he wasn't going to credit the Warriors. He picked Houston, and when the Warriors were smashing Houston, he just decided, well, I'm not going to credit the Warriors. I'll just smash Houston. So he basically said they don't have anybody who can shoot, which is true outside of Van Vliet. They don't have a bunch of great shooters. What's Houston's move here? I mean, this was a great season for them. They won 50 games. They've got a great young core. Thompson, Sengun, Green, Jabari Smith, Eason. I thought they had some nice weapons or nice role players around those guys as well. But they're thinking big. They're going to go big game hunting. What's the piece that's going to get Houston over the top?
Kevin Durant.
You think it's Durant?
It's the only choice they have. He's the only guy who fits. And they have enough pieces and enough draft picks to be able to put together a deal that would make sense for Phoenix, who's going to literally try to do whatever they can to get Bradley Beal up out of there.
What would that deal look like? Because I don't want to move Thompson.
Thompson's not going, even though they'll ask for him. But Jabari Smith, Jalen Green, Eason, and some draft picks. They're going to have to put a veteran in that deal to make.
No, I don't know
about Reed because he doesn't make any money. They're going to have.
Who's going to go, Carl? It's going to be Carl. It's going to be Cam Whitmore. Is going to be a price piece, and whoever gets in these deals, because a lot of teams will want him.
Don't say that when Red's on, because Red still wants Cameron Whitmore more than he wants Brandon Pajemski.
Me too. I'm me too. Count me in that too. Like I respect Frank even more for that. Then it bothered me
the contributions that he made this series were okay. He didn't make any. Cam Whitmore's an athlete, and athletes are great when you can play isolation basketball. But Houston needs a guy that they can center their offense around, and it can't be Sengun because come playoff time, he's not a good enough free throw shooter. He's not a good enough outside shooter for teams to double team him. The Warriors played him with one defender basically the whole series and kind of said, hey, if you can kill us, kill us. It's going to come down to will they pay the $44 million to Fred VanVleet and that player option. That's going to be a huge, huge piece that'll determine what they're going to do this summer.
Well, and the Phoenix doesn't have any picks. Like they're not a team similar to Milwaukee with the Giannis conversation. Neither of these teams are teams that can just, all right, we're going to get rid of all our stars and bottom out and then try and get high draft picks. Their draft picks are owned for the foreseeable future for like the next 3 or 4 years by other teams. So they're going to have to do a thing where they get enough back to where it's some high upside guys, but you throw them all together and maybe they can be a play-in team or get in an 8 seed every once in a while. So it seems like I know, and we're talking Rockets, but on the subject of Giannis, because I think he also is a potential guy for the Rockets. I don't see how the Warriors have the assets to go after Giannis when there's teams out there like the Rockets that have 1 million draft picks plus 1 million young fun guys. And then you have teams like OKC that are literally a sleeping giant with like 20 first round picks seemingly coming up and like a whole roster of awesome dudes, depending on like how their season finishes this year. It just seems like that's probably not going to happen for the Warriors, but God damn it. It does seem like Giannis is coming west, and that just sucks, man. Just abolish conferences. You don't think he's going to Houston?
Think about it. They'd have to get rid of Sengun.
I think they'd do that. I wouldn't want to get rid of Sengun, but like if you're getting Giannis.
If you're Milwaukee, do you want to be Houston East? I mean, I don't know if that formula is what they're going to be looking for. If we're honest, Houston has the perfect coach for their personnel. They just need one guy who's an outstanding offensive player, and they have some young assets. Fortunately, Jalen Green got paid, so at least that gets them a little bit closer to KD's money, but they're going to have to find a veteran they're going to put in that deal in order to make that deal work. So that's where I see him going. If he goes anywhere, I see him going to Houston.
What do you guys see as Kerr's opening lineup against Minnesota. Give me Kerr's opening lineup. Give me 3 guys that you want to see play off the bench in this series.
I honestly don't. I don't know. I would assume they're probably going to roll out the same lineup they rolled out tonight.
With Pods and Heald in the backcourt with Curry, kind of the 3 small guard lineup.
Yep. And then Looney quick off the bench.
Don't forget GP2, another one of Kerr's favorites.
GP2.
Do you know what, Cyrus, what sickness did he have? Did they say? Was it like the flu?
Kerr described it. He said there was some vomiting. Kerr said he woke up this morning feeling like death, and there was vomiting involved. And it was just one of those things where he couldn't go. But the GP2 thing I don't get. I just really don't get it. He has tremendous value as a role player, has tremendous value in spot minutes. But if we saw tonight at the beginning of this game, and I touched on this on the first part earlier tonight, for a brief moment, we saw a 5-player lineup tonight that were on the court. We had Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, and Stephen Curry. That 5-man lineup this season played 13 minutes together total all year because Steve Kerr in his mind subjectively thinks they don't fit. There's virtually no analytics that support this notion. He just, in his mind, he's admitted this. He makes these big decisions with his gut. And GP2, the fact that he's ahead of Kuminga in the rotation will forever drive me insane. I don't get it. You're not going to logically explain it to me. It's just Steve Kerr making his subjective decisions. My point is, we saw that 5-person unit tonight on the court, and the world did not end. And they only spent, I think 2 or 3 minutes out there together, but they looked good. And then Kuminga committed 1 turnover, and Steve Kerr was like, no, and just pulled him out. And we saw him again one more time briefly in the third quarter. You need size and athleticism. And Carl, this is where you and I will massively disagree because you think Cam Whitmore is I feel like it sounds like you disparage him because he's an athletic. You say he's athletic like that's a bad thing. I think that's insane, man. Brandon Podziemski, I like him, and I think he's going to be a good player for this team long term. But don't pretend like Brandon Podziemski night after night is playing fantastic basketball. He did not play good tonight, man. 1 of 7 shooting from deep, 9 points. But again, this is where the double standard comes. And people ask, why do you care so much? Why is Steve Kerr such a point of consternation for you? It's because of his double standards. Like, why is Kuminga treated like shit? Kerr will not explain it. There's no details behind it. It's just he doesn't fit. It's just a math problem. That's what he loves to keep bringing up. But Brandon Podziemski can go 1 for 7 from deep and get a pass. I don't get any of this, man. And you ask me why do you have an issue with Kerr? It's because again, he's literally ruining this kid's life, and he's also not playing the best players. Agree to disagree if you don't believe that. But I liked what I saw tonight when Kuminga was on the floor in that brief moment.
Well, I'll say this. I'm not a coach. My brother's been a very successful basketball coach.
Steve Kerr wasn't a coach before he got hired by the Warriors, Dan, just so you know.
Yeah. But every coach plays to win. Never does anything. If Kerr thought Kuminga gave him the best chance to win, he'd be out there. And tonight I feel bad for the kid in the sense he doesn't get into a flow. He makes mistakes and he's got to come out. But part of that is you have to go with what you're looking at as a coach. And you can't just go, well, I'll give him more time in game 7 because he was the only guy on the Warriors tonight who was negative. I think he was -4 and everybody was positive.
-2 in 7 minutes.
2.
Like that means anything, Dan.
I know, but
he was -4. Not that it really matters.
Oh, I'm sorry. The first half he was -2. You're right. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
But he did make a couple of mistakes, and in a regular season, they're going to let that go. And he's just going to let him play it out. But I think he gave him a shot to see what he could do. And it was
when you say couple mistakes, Dan, well, he had 1 turnover. What's the second one?
He didn't block out at Steven Adams.
He didn't block out.
You mean Adams. He couldn't block out Steven Adams because Steven Adams is a massive force who no one can block out if your name is not Kevon Looney. That's a grossly unfair critique, man. But continue. That's insane.
I mean,
this is why I get upset, because that kind of rhetoric is bullshit, right? Like he could not block out Steven Adams. Do you really think he failed on that because he didn't try?
Well, I think he tried. Let's not get bogged down on just the Steven Adams thing, but
why say that?
Okay. He was 0 for 4 shooting. I mean, this is one thing about Kuminga. I think specifically in this playoffs where they are not calling fouls. I think that the best thing that Kuminga does during the regular season is get downhill and get to the cup. And that's something they really, outside of Jimmy Butler, something they don't have. But and one thing that's great is he puts refs in conflict. They call a lot of fouls. Since he's been in the playoffs and they're not really calling anything at the cup, he's just getting to the rim and breaking layups.
Thank you. That was so annoying, man. Thanks, dude. Sorry, go ahead.
Carl had to leave at 10. Yeah.
Good. I mean, what kind of nonsense was that, dude? There's a reason why I don't invite him on my show, because that was nonsense. I mean, have a normal conversation instead of that bullshit, dude. Like, anyway.
So you didn't want to divulge his source.
Did he even have a source? You didn't even go that far.
I don't know.
I didn't hear shit. Like, what kind of?
I don't want to be conversation police. Let me hit this one. 6 Minute Abs says Cyrus has me rolling. Great to see real convos. F-bombs brought to you by Pig in a Pickle. 6 Minute Abs. No title without JK's 10 to 15. Pods and Moody missing.
That's true. Yeah, and you got it. Also, I think you got to give Kerr props, like with as far as Moody goes, because he's been a little inconsistent with. Okay, Moody's going to play a bunch this game. Now he's not going to play as much. I thought he did well with Moody today. He just decided, you know what, Moody doesn't have it.
By just saying go in the game. Like, this is the part I don't get, man. Steve Kerr is a clipboard holder. He just stands there and yells. Yet you have people who are fanboys for this guy. That's the part I don't get, dude. The athletes are the ones out there playing and winning, not the coach. The coach has the power to decide who plays and doesn't play.
But Cy, you're going at the U.S. Olympic coach. You're going at one of the most successful coaches of his era. You're going at a coach that has no less than a dozen rings, probably, between a coach and a player. I mean, he's
luckiest motherfucker.
He's one of the most accomplished coaches of all
motherfucker on the planet. If I had Michael Jordan and Tim Duncan as my teammates, I'd have rings too as a player, just sitting on the sideline there. If I had Stephen Curry and Kevin Durant as my players as a head coach, I'd be a championship head coach. He is a lucky motherfucker who just time and time and again is a benefit. He's a benefactor of circumstance, dude. I don't see him doing shit other than that first championship. I will forever give him credit for that. You take that first championship aside, I don't see what the hell is so special about this guy. I don't get it.
Well, I don't like that you make it seem like Steve Kerr is like the Forrest Gump of basketball, and he's just like ended up in all these amazing circumstance.
Right.
I mean, at a certain point, it's like, it's like whether it's Jerry
fired
West
as the GM of the Suns, right? My critique of him is as a personnel guy. He has never proven to me he knows how to evaluate talent. If he was good at it, the Suns would not have shit canned him, man. And the fact that he constantly picks the wrong dudes to play because in his mind he has these weird like ideas for who connects things his logic makes no sense to me, man. I'm sorry. I don't get it. Sorry.
Well, anyway, I do think he did a good job. I thought Moody didn't have it today. I thought Moody on defense, he struggles against these smaller, quicker guards, even though he's a good defender. He's a little bit better on wings or bigger guards because his feet aren't very quick, even though he's long and he is a good positional defender. And then he was 0 for 5 from the field, and it just honestly, it kind of looked like he didn't have it today.
This next round, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see, do the Warriors try to play a little bit bigger against this team that has so much size, or does Kerr look at that as the disadvantage and go, you know what, we'll go that much smaller? At times, if you looked at this first round, Houston's best lineup was their 2 big man lineup, and yet Kerr tried to beat that lineup with a smaller lineup Is he going to do the same thing in the second round?
Honestly, and this is where Cy does feel sometimes a little like Kerr shaking a snow globe. I honestly have no idea what Steve Kerr's I don't know what he's thinking for this game. That's why I would assume that he's gonna start with the guys that got him there. Probably roll with the same lineup as tonight. But I think Looney earned a ton of respect. I thought it was interesting. Cy, you weren't here for this, but Carl seems to think that Quentin Post is going to get a lot of run and be kind of a hinge point for the series.
He might. It's a good point.
I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I like Quentin Post. I like Quentin Post a lot. Sign me up. You're absolutely right. There's no way to predict what's going to happen. We saw game 6 to me was the ultimate chance for people to see who Steve Kerr trusts the most, right? Because that was such a must-win game, as much as tonight was. But game 6, the Warriors treated as a must-win. And there was no surprise from my perspective that GP2 was starting. He started. In what world, no other coach in the right mind starts GP2, unless you're Steve Kerr. And, and I've said time and time and again, and thankfully Kerr is avoiding this 3-player combo for the most part, where Steph, Pajemski, and GP2, those 3 together, that's a 3-guard lineup that fails routinely. Net rating reflects it, eye test reflects it. So I hope we don't see that. We thankfully have. Quentin Post could play a huge role in this. Guy Santos could play a huge role in this. This series is so unpredictable. Like case in point, you look at the 4 games they played against each other this year, and one of the 4 wins for the Warriors, Dennis Schroeder was their starting 2 guard. Side note, in case you wonder why Steve Kerr drives me crazy, yes, he wanted Dennis Schroeder as the starting 2 guard for his team. But Dennis Schroeder was starting. I think GP2 was starting, and they won that game insanely. I don't get it. Andrew Wiggins was the 4. I don't know if you remember that stretch where the Warriors were actually starting Andrew Wiggins as a power forward, and they won. It was insane. I think Trace Jackson Davis was your starting 5 that game. Who knows? I have no clue what to predict for this game. I'm lost.
It's going to be interesting because Minnesota does have a ton of size. O'Shea Barton says BP Brandon Pajemski is a way better defender and rebounder than Jonathan Kuminga.
Do you guys agree with that?
I don't think there's no way, there's no universe where he's a better defender. He might be a better rebounder because he does go to the glass with ferocity going back to his Santa Clara days, and he brings that almost all the time. Kuminga, if he devoted himself to defense and rebounding, easily could do it. But he's, this guy that's kind of young in the game, and there's not a lot of consistency. I don't, and is that on him? Yeah, it's on him, but it's on them too. I mean, he's been on their team for a number of years now, and it's hey, if you couldn't express to him what you need from him, it's are you communicating well with him? He's a great talent. I know he's going to be good for somebody, but it's unfortunate. It doesn't look like it's going to be here. Talk to him nice, says Carl, Rye, Dan. Thanks for bringing well-informed, educated basketball takes. Such a pleasant contrast to Cy, who can only glaze JK and hate on Kerr.
I'm not glazing JK. I'm just saying he's never gotten a shot. He's never averaged more than 26 minutes in a game in a season, and that was last year. His minutes went down. He was 7th on the team in minutes this year. Justify that. Everybody who hates me for my rhetoric does so because they're Steve Kerr fanboys. More power to you. He's a head coach. He's flawed. Look at the last 6 years and all the misses that the Warriors have had in these last 6 years. And if you look at it from that prism and not the whole 11 years where the first 5 he had just the most stacked rosters imaginable, you will see he's an incredibly flawed head coach who can be vindictive, who's incredibly egotistical, and who's in a position of power where he's abusing it in this case based off his treatment of one of his star players. That's my take on it. If you don't like it,
I mean, that's fine to have that take, but that is the emperor has no clothes kind of a take when you're talking about a guy who's as accomplished as Kerr. Just know that, and know that you're going to run into an awful lot of opposition, whether you're right or, I mean, it's you're right, but then the people who are saying who are defending Kerr are also right. It's like,
what are you right about? What are they right about? That he should just be
that he's one of the best coaches in the league, and that he's a massive winner as a player, as a coach. He's the Olympic coach. He's as respected as almost any basketball voice in college or pro. But I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong, Cy. So don't take it that way. I'm just saying you're holding him to a high standard and being incredibly critical, and you're on point, and you're on point, and your points are valid. I'm not saying they're not.
I know. I get it. I get all this. My whole thing is, and this is a deeper, maybe philosophical discussion here, but my whole thing is, I don't respect people who get to where they are strictly because someone else appointed them to that position, right? What I mean by that is, for example, we're in this new media paradigm where people are achieving success based off what they can actually do, their talents, right? That is the world we're in now in the media, right? And this is unfortunately the clickbait thing sometimes sucks for that reason. But over a long time, if you have talent, you're probably going to make it. If you don't, you're going to get exposed. But for decades of our lives, all you needed was to kiss one program director's ass, and they're going to give you a broadcasting job. And you're going to get paid handsomely, and you're going to have an audience because the media paradigm was limited in terms of how people can consume media. And so because one person appointed someone else to this position, they automatically have money and power. And I pay attention to nuance. I try to look at the fine details of every situation. And when it comes to Steve Kerr, I can understand someone who doesn't pay attention to the nitty gritty looking at me going, what the hell are you talking about here, right? I get it if you don't look at this from a microscopic perspective like I do. But when you look at it closely, you're looking at a player who, again, played 20 minutes a night for the Bulls, who played 15 minutes a night for the Spurs, right? And we're sitting here giving him credit for championships. We might as well call Jordan Bell a champion. We might as well call Quinn Cook a champion because they played the same role for the Warriors in 2017-18 that Steve Kerr did for those teams. And then you look at the actual rosters that he's inherited. They're so stacked. But when you look at the nuance, no players developed except for Kevon Looney in 11 years. You look at the fact that the Warriors were awful in 2020, 15 wins, a league worst. And you think to yourself, all right, we get a number 2 pick at least out of this, right? And Steve Kerr's all on board. He starts involving himself really carefully and meticulously. And someone who literally his ethos is a separation of church and state in terms of GM versus coach. He believes in that with conviction, and he says so, but then he flaunts that and goes hypocritical by literally inserting himself with the scouting, the drafting, by shutting down trading for Anthony Edwards. He wanted James Wiseman. He literally was interviewing Wiseman's high school teammates in that draft process. He wanted him. So this is a guy who, when you look at
so did Joe. So did Joe.
Fair.
And Joe is the owner. Yeah, I know. Which has a huge say. Guy had a huge say. And his kid
I'll say this, Steve Kerr, I think he did hit a game winner, didn't he, in the playoffs?
He did.
At last second. Didn't he? Okay. I was looking at this, and just to give a different side, because I was curious. I looked up the 24-25 NBA GM survey. There was 50 questions, and all these questions about different players, like Steph's rated like the number 1 leader who's the best leader, Steph. But they asked which head coach has the best defensive? Oh no, that's not the one. Which head coach runs the best offense? And it was Rick Carlisle, Joe Mazzulla, Chris Finch, and then Steve Kerr. And which head coach makes the best game in adjustments? And it was Ty Lue. I did not see Steve Kerr receive votes there. Which is the best motivator?
I'm never critiquing his coaching. It's the personnel decisions. That's the issue I have. I don't think he has a good grasp of who's good and who's bad. He's all about
to be a good coach, though. Don't you have to make personnel decisions? He's ranked the 3rd best coach behind Spoelstra and the OKC coach, Mark
Dagnall,
and then Kerr was 3rd. I mean, you got to be able to. A coach's job is substitution patterns and
rotations.
Rotations.
I mean, it's not crazy. I mean, there's a lot of people that think that Kyle Shanahan is not a great personnel guy, but he's obviously a very good coach. I would consider Kyle Shanahan a top 5 or 6 NFL coach, and yet I don't think he's probably a top 5 or 6 personnel evaluator. So it's like they're totally different skill sets. I mean, it's the rarest of rare that has that. There are very few guys. I mean, I can't really think of too many at all that have been great coaches and great talent evaluators. I mean, for every, there's Phil Jackson, but he had Rod Thorne, and there was Steve Kerr.
Who's Rod Thorne? What do you mean as a GM? What do you mean?
Rod Thorne drafted Michael Jordan.
It wasn't way back when. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, and like the Warriors, I mean, they had Don Nelson and Larry Riley who drafted Steph Curry. It's like, they made that one great decision that in basketball can set you up.
Nelly credit for that.
Incredible. It totally was Nelly. It totally was Nelly. I mean, you got to remember this. Larry Riley at that point in history had only his NBA chops. The only person he had to thank for even having an NBA career at all was Don Nelson. He was a scout for the Mavericks for years and years. He was Nelly's good old boy buddy. And I'm not saying that Larry Riley didn't have the title, but I talked to Larry Riley about his process going into that Steph Curry draft, and he told me that he gave Don Nelson a group of players that included Steph Curry to watch, and that Nelly wanted Curry. And this is Don Nelson, who at this point in history had already wanted Sidney Moncrief, Terry Cummings, Latrell Sprewell, Mitch Richmond, Tim Hardaway. I mean, lots and lots and lots of good players Nelly had, and Nelly wasn't done because later on he added Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash in the same offseason for the Mavericks. Nelly's a genius. Nelly's a basketball personnel genius. And he told Larry Riley, Steph Curry, they told Steph and Dell, we don't care if you work out for us or not. We're drafting you if you're there. Steph tried to get the Warriors to not take him. Dell tried to get the Warriors to not take Steph. And Larry Riley and Don Nelson said, screw you. We're going to take who we want to take, and we're taking you. So that's where this thing turned around. But you have to have your courage of your convictions in a personnel sense to make the right decision. Now, Kerr's a great, guy as far as bringing everybody along for the most part, and he got that from Phil Jackson. But I don't think Steve is some awesome personnel guy, and that's why it was so incredibly valuable to have Jerry West. That's why it was so valuable to be. That's why the $2 million or $3 million or $5 million or whatever it was that they were paying Jerry West was worth every penny, because he had the clarity of thought when it came to personnel to say, yes, we want to keep Klay Thompson. We don't want to move him for Kevin Love. Yes, we want this guy. No, we don't want that guy. So, and then when they lost Jerry West, suddenly here's Justinian Jessup. Here's Nico Mannion.
With low draft picks, though, Larry. I mean, that's the part. I don't want to You're right. I'm just saying,
with their second round picks, they were bombing horribly, taking these wild stabs on these nothing guys. When they got Draymond Green.
Draymond Green wasn't a wild stab, and
I know, but they had Jerry. They had Jerry when they drafted Draymond and Harrison Barnes and Festus. They had Jerry then. He was in the organization. He was gone by the time they started taking these other wild stabs.
And Jerry West is also Larry. Jerry West was also responsible for the Paul George trade, which is going to go down as one of the worst trades in NBA history. You gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
He's a kingmaker, though.
But I'll defend Jerry on that, because he did say wasn't he the one who drafted SGA?
Yeah.
I think he was the one who drafted SGA, and then he said for years SGA is untradeable, and he refused to move him in any package. And the only reason why that ended up happening is it was to get Kawhi Leonard. Like, they had to do it. Like, in order to get Kawhi,
it's just easy to cherry pick. Like, when to credit West for something, and then when to
Jerry
say
West. I mean, he basically turned Magic and Kareem into like 3 different generations of winning eras of NBA basketball. So, I mean, he is considered by most as the best personnel guy in NBA history.
No disagreement there.
But Nelly's right there. Nelly's right there. My point is just that I love Kerr, but the odds were never that he was going to have personnel chops. I never really expected him to. And if he did, I would have been shocked.
Well, and he didn't. He wasn't a part. Like, for example, when the Warriors signed DeMarcus Cousins in 2019, right? Like, that was not a Steve Kerr move. Like, Steve Kerr used to sit back and let the front office do his thing. 2020 is when it changed. They had the number 2 pick in the draft, and Steve Kerr decided to insert himself in influencing who they're going to pick with that draft selection, and the rest is history. I have very conflicted feelings about Nelly, Larry, for a couple of reasons. Like he's one of the reasons why I am the way I am emotionally about the small ball bullshit. Like, I grew up with Nelly ball. I hated small ball back then. And the fact that it's back, and I think this is the difference between an older fan like me and a lot of these younger fans who did not watch the Don Nelson era and watch a coach who thought, oh, small is better than size. Like, it didn't work then. It only worked now because of Stephen Curry. That's the only reason why it's working now. It is absurd to me to disregard size and athleticism in a sport like basketball in the same way that it would be absurd to disregard size as an O-lineman in football, right? Like, a 250-pound person is not going to be an O-lineman in the NFL. But imagine if some coach is like, well, I think the speed can outweigh the actual size of the person. It's just physics. It's basic physics. Size is important in basketball. Nelly's small ball shit. Look, he put Run TMC together. Great. He also broke it up to get Billy Owens. Not great. He also totally bungled the Chris Webber situation. There was a lot that Don Nelson did that left much to be desired. But look, you're absolutely right that he is incredible in terms of hiring Larry Riley. Stephen Curry loves Larry Riley, the GM, so much he named his first daughter Riley after the GM. And so that's how important Larry Riley was to Stephen Curry. But the small ball thing, man, like, the fact that we're another coach is doing this shit, I'm fed up.
It's because he's done it. They do it in practice, and they see when they go smalls against bigs that the smalls always win, and then the bigs are always bothered by the athletic smalls. And and usually also, when you do go small against a team that's going big, they stop playing in the flow of the game and they start hunting for the mismatches. And sometimes that makes that kills their rhythm offensively. So there's a belief that you can speed teams up, that you can cause turnovers, that you can make them uncomfortable, that you can get them to play your game. You can kind of lure them into your game. And then some teams, let's be honest, when Nelly was doing it, some of the bigs that he was going against were relatively unathletic bigs that if you force them to be defended by a smaller guy, they were easily pickable and turnoverable. So I think there's a lot of factors that played into it. I know, talking to Tolbert all those years, doing the radio show with him, that, Nelly would do this as a way to kind of, kill the monotony of the season. Is like, all right, guys, let's have all the bigs, let's go 5-on-5 against all the smalls, and just let's have some fun, right? Let's laugh a little bit as, Mr. Jennings is trying to go up against Carlos Rogers or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I think, but in the process of doing that, I think he also saw that they're in a short spurt. Sometimes the smalls can have advantages. Sometimes the smalls can make a team uncomfortable. And sometimes big players, when guarded by smaller players, don't feel comfortable at all putting the ball on the deck. They want to pass the ball. They don't have the same offensive game. So there's a lot of factors at work here. I generally agree. I mean, you gotta give this to Nelly. Even in all those years where they were playing small ball, the holy grail was always, can you get a Chris Webber? Can you get a 6'9", 6'10" guy with long arms who's athletic enough to play with the small, skilled enough to score with the smaller players, but also big enough to block shots and give you a presence? So, I mean, they always were looking for that piece. I've almost felt like they played small out of necessity more than anything. Let me hit a couple more of these supers, though.
Yeah.
HR says, been watching the Warriors for 35 years. Sai's right about Kerr. His rotations are inane. Moody, JK, Pods have been misdeveloped.
It goes beyond that. I mean, go even further. Like Damian Jones, first round pick. Nice knowing you. What was the guy? Jacob Evans III. Nice knowing you. Side note, Jacob Evans III, in case folks forgot, he came back to the Warriors, right? He was part of the trade that brought Andrew Wiggins to the Warriors. He comes back to try to resurrect his NBA career, and he's 6'4", okay? He plays for Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz plays him at center. That's true story, man. It's a different beast. And again, I think it works when you have Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson as your backcourt, right? Never mind the fact that Klay Thompson's 6'7" and was an awesome defensive player. Never mind the fact that you had like Sean Livingston at 6'8" coming off the bench, Andre Iguodala. This team had perfect personnel. But I started noticing weird stuff, and I mentioned this before, as far back as 2018, when the Warriors and the Rockets played in the Western Conference Finals that year. I actually looked back at the box scores just to see like how far back has this craziness started. And again, he DNP'd JaVale McGee for the entire series. JaVale McGee was the team's starting center that year. He resurrected his career with the Warriors because remember, JaVale McGee was like borderline done. And then the Warriors took a spin on him. He's actually playing fantastic. He's a lob threat. He's playing defense. And the Warriors would have finished that series in 5 games, man. They would have clean shop just like this series. They would have clean shop if the right players played. Instead, that series went to a game 7. You needed the Rockets to go 0 for 27 from 3 to survive that 7-game series. A team with Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry barely survived that series. And it's because JaVale McGee was DNP'd the entire series. David West, in case you forgot him, was on that team. DNP'd for almost the entire series. Steve Kerr has a weird way of looking at connectivity. And he values speed, I think, way more than most other coaches. But I guess like I care so much right now because I do believe with conviction. Like I guaranteed it a month ago, and then I pulled back when I realized Steve Kerr values GP2 more than Kuminga. But this team can win the title this year. I don't know if you guys think I'm crazy saying that. I firmly believe it. The landscape is set up for the Warriors to win 12 more games and win a championship. But you got to play the right players, man. And this is why this is Steve Kerr's chip. If they win a 5th championship this year, this is Steve Kerr's chip because you got to play the right guys. And if you do, you're winning a title, man. I believe that with utmost.
I mean, that would be incredible. Marcus Texas should have traded Kuminga for Vucevic.
Yes.
We need a center.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have that kind of shooter.
Like, why didn't they communicate about that? Like, why was there no like? There's something going on here that's amiss, right? Like how do you like go along with the Jimmy Butler trade and then tell your front office, well, I had to see Jimmy and Kuminga on the court together before deciding that our third leading scorer doesn't fit with those two. Like,
well, you gotta remember the bottom line is Joe owns the team. Joe loves Kuminga. I think everybody's. Yeah. This is why they've gotten to this point. SRT says MJ didn't have rings before Phil. Steph was getting bounced in the second round before Kerr. Coaching absolutely matters in all sports.
Phil Jackson.
We got this one. MSQ. Without one another, Curry wouldn't be this successful. We got Armando Lara. JK has to shoot 100% for guys like Ryan to think he has a good game. God. Alan Johnson says Sai is 1,000% right. Don't see you guys ever criticizing Pods. He throws up shitty shots and never gets pulled. Sai's completely right. O'Shea wrong.
O'Shea wrong.
Diami Drums says give Sai back his meds. Annoying. Even spelled Sai with a PSI. PSY. Talk to him nice. As Kerr had developed Poole, Pods, Loon, and Sai, beloved JK. Cyrus can't name one young player who's left and been better away from Kerr.
Because Kerr destroyed him.
Let me know when it happens.
I've actually got one. Ty Jerome.
Well,
Ty Jerome, what did he do today?
He had 20.
Yeah, they lost. I mean, that's what matters. Not the points. It's the wins and losses. They lost. I actually,
if you take it that way, though, you got to say Kerr won.
Why? He wanted Ty Jerome.
No, I'm saying Kerr
but he plays playing
won
well
tonight, and Kerr won in 18, even though you went 7. They still won the title. So if all that matters is wins and losses, you have to give Kerr some credit.
Right. But again, this is where, if you look at the nuance of things, what I'm saying here is when you have a team that's stacked, when you have Stephen Curry on your team, and in that year, Kevin Durant, a series like that should not go to 7 games. Look at the Olympics this last summer. Kerr decides to DNP Jason Tatum in that semifinal game against Serbia, right? And that was the second DNP of those Olympics.
It was the right move.
They were down by 17 points. They needed Stephen Curry to go 9 of 14 from 3 and drop.
But he did it. But he did it.
Right. But my point is, like, what is Steve Kerr like Nostradamus? Like, he just knew Stephen Curry was gonna like have the game of his life after struggling the entire Olympics.
He's a visionary. He's a visionary.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. We get this one from 6 Minute Abs. T-Wolves didn't look good against LaFlop. Sasha Jones in the house. She says Moody and Kuminga would never be allowed to miss as many shots as Pods missed tonight. Also, Moody is a better defender than Pods, had huge rebounds tonight, and played better D on Fred VanVleet versus Pods.
Yeah, let me just say
I thought I like Pods at times, but and there's things about him I admire. But you know what? I think he's trade bait in the offseason.
I'll say this:
he can't finish inside, and his form on his shot changes. It seems like every other game. I don't think it's ever going to have the level of consistency to really be awesome. And I know he does some good things, but find somebody who loves him.
He's the second best ball handler on the team.
That's
why he's in there.
But he can't finish inside, so it's like, and he's not a great shooter.
Say this about
Seemingly
Kuminga.
no one can on this team.
I'll say this about Kuminga and trading him. Part of the job of a GM is to look at the horizon, and you got to realize that Kuminga's going to get a big offer in the offseason. And rather than trade him for just Vukovic, you might be able to get a real star player. He's going to make 30 to 35 million.
Yeah, no, Vucevic sounds nice in a text or in a chat, but it's going to look really bad compared to what they actually get when they actually.
Yeah, they're going to get somebody really good in the off season because of somebody's going to offer Kuminga a big amount, and Warriors are going to work out a sign and trade, and they will get a player that's making pretty good money that will fit their scheme.
Wiggins.
I will say this.
It might be Wiggins. Yeah.
Cam Johnson.
Earlier, you could do better. But look, earlier in the show, I think, Rye, you said that the Warriors don't have a shot at getting Giannis. Like, they don't have the assets. I disagree. Yeah. You look at the Warriors, let's say a hypothetical trade. Jonathan Kuminga signed a trade, right?
Okay.
Moses Moody's making $13 million. Pajemski's making what, like $7 million? Buddy Hield makes like $9 million. You add that and throw in like every draft pick you can throw in, right? Because you have limitations to that as well. You can only do it every other year, for example. Yeah. I think the Warriors are just as in this as anyone else, man, because what you're offering to Milwaukee in that situation, besides the fact that you need Giannis to be happy, like they're not going to trade, like force a Giannis trade.
That's what they have. That's what they have is that Giannis loves Steph.
Exactly. And Giannis likes Steph. You're selling the dream of Giannis, Steph, Dre, and Jimmy Butler on the team together. Like, sign me up for that. And I think there's a hint of realism there.
Really?
Like, I know the Rockets and the Thunder, they have more draft picks they can throw, but they don't have players who are young and can play now. The Warriors do have that they can offer, who are also very young. I think
but if you're the problem is I just don't think if I'm Milwaukee, I just dropped a water bottle with my toe. I think I don't know if I'm the Bucks. I don't think I want Kuminga. I don't think I want Kuminga to be like the centerpiece of that. When you can potentially get like Jalen Green, they might even be able to get Şengün. Plus any more. I mean, like there's so many guys on the Rockets bench, whether it be Jabari Smith or your Cam Whitmore or Reed Shepherd. Like it's just a lot of like lottery tickets and guys that play really well together.
You might be right.
Versus like we're just talking about Moody and Pods and Buddy. Plus, plus, get this: you can have Kuminga coming off his all-time low stock. Is that what you want? No, I don't think so.
Well, hopefully, hey, since they got a whole nother series, maybe they can get lucky and turn his stock around.
You
never know.
Yeah, that too.
We got MSQ's size Kerr take can be used for Pop, Phil, J, Coach,
and I'll tell you why.
etc.
Phil Jackson won 11. All right. So Kerr hasn't even hit the halfway point for that. All right. But Pat Riley to me is another example of a brilliant head coach who still at 80 plus years of age is now just has Spo as an extension of his brilliance. But Pat Riley is another brilliant coach that I put on the Mount Rushmore. The thing is,
Pop?
and then Popovich, I know people love him and they adore him. And I guess I'm the guy who's going to have unpopular opinions for most nights here, but I don't care. I'd rather die on a hill that's honest than try to make people like me or be happy. Like, that's just not how I roll, man. I'd rather just give you the truth, whether you like it or not. And when it comes
to the rest
Popovich,
of us are just here for smiles, but go ahead.
Sorry, folks. But I will say this: Popovich, he did two things that are blemishes on his resume, right? One of them was and it's a miracle that he got saved for this decision. But when he took Tim Duncan out of the game at the end of the 2013 NBA Finals, Game 6, the one where LeBron misses the three, Ray Allen gets it back from an offensive rebound. That offensive rebound never happens if Tim Duncan's in the game. And Greg Popovich pulled a Steve Kerr where he thought he was too smart for his own good, takes Tim Duncan out. That decision bites them in the ass, and they lose that NBA Finals. Greg Popovich was insanely lucky to have Kawhi Leonard emerge as a player in his roster the next season. But that's also a ding on Kerr because Kerr has never developed anyone. Popovich has developed Kawhi Leonard. Also, at the same time, a blemish on Popovich's resume is losing Kawhi Leonard, right? So I look, to me, like the greatest all-time coaches don't do things that make you scratch your head in hindsight. Phil Jackson never did anything that made me second guess him, ever. Pat Riley never did anything that made me second guess him, ever. Greg Popovich made me second guess him twice.
Yeah, but just to play devil's advocate,
yeah.
You said you could win a title with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Did Phil Jackson win a title with the Bulls without MJ?
No, but he did take a team without MJ to the playoffs. And when Steve Kerr had a team that was weak, they won 15 games, and he blew the lottery pick. That's the difference, right?
Alan Johnson
without Jordan,
there was no relevant. The better equivalent would be like if that happened, I don't know, in 17 or something, when they still had like pretty prime Draymond, and Draymond was there for the whole season instead of getting injured, plus Clay, plus maybe some of their awesome role guys still there. I mean, look, Kerr, I guess the closest you could say to something like that is probably when they won a couple games versus the Trailblazers without Steph in the playoffs. I think they went undefeated and won that series without Steph.
Series,
or was it the Rockets?
There's always
championships. When Phil took over the Lakers, Kobe Bryant was 21 years of age, right? So Phil has already proven that he could take young pieces and turn them into champions and a dynasty.
But don't you think Kobe turned himself into Kobe? I mean,
I don't know. I don't think Phil hurt. I don't think Phil hurt in the pro. I mean, Phil.
Well, then you got to give credit for Curry to Kerr for Curry getting better.
And
I give Mark Jackson credit for Curry.
Well, I give Kerr tons of credit for the last championship. I mean, if you remember that year, the Warriors weren't the most talented team. They just didn't. They stayed together. The rest of those teams fractured and kind of fell by the wayside. I mean, part of it is it's a war of attrition and the last man standing. You also worked some new guys in there. I mean, there were some guys there. The Georgetown guy who shot threes. They had
Otto Porter Jr.
Yeah, they had some other players that they worked
veterans that Bob Myers signed that were perfect.
That played really good roles in that run. Alan
but
Johnson says,
I don't know why you credit Steve Kerr for that. That's where I look at Bob
because he
Myers.
showed that he could do it with brand new players, a whole new mix. I mean,
I would say he gets credit
I don't think they were the best team.
I don't know. I'm not impressed by that. Like keep in mind too, that team, if you look at the minutes, like Damian Lee and Juan Toscano Anderson were often getting minutes over players that should have been playing. Like Steve Kerr does so much shit.
Won the title. They had a parade.
What's up?
They won the title.
I know, but again, I credit Steph. I almost feel like you're disrespecting Steph's greatness by pretending that Steve Kerr, who just sits there and yells and makes
That's
decisions.
great that you credit Steph, but Steph were here, he'd credit Steve.
Maybe.
So, I mean, he probably would.
He's a humble man.
Probably would.
He's a humble
Alan
man.
Johnson says, this is insane. This is insane, guys. How can you not see that Jonathan Kuminga is not getting fair treatment? Had to send another chat. So pissed. Compared him to Pods. Yeah, I mean, there's no question. There's no question that Steve, I mean, I said this the other day. I don't think Steve does this without talking to Steph. I don't think Steve does this without talking to Draymond. I don't think Steve does this without talking to Jimmy. I just don't think that you don't include your biggest stars in a decision like this. So I really think that he's just doing what they've all decided they're going to do, which is they're going to try to do this without Kuminga. I think it's stupid. I mean, to me, I don't think they can do it without Kuminga, and to even try to do it without Kuminga is idiotic. But I do believe that Kerr talks to his teammates or talks to his players and treats them almost like teammates. Because I know Steve. Because I know fucking Steve. Because I talked to Steve many times on the air, off the air, on the record, off the record. He talks to Steph. He talks to Draymond. He
about
talks
personnel decisions and minutes and locations?
Yes, he talks to these guys. These guys are not these guys have much more of an active role in the running of this team than probably any guys in the entire league.
I don't know.
I bet you anything that's the case. And I know from talking to Steve about the way he talks to them that they're in this dialogue. Now, I don't have ironclad proof that Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler are the reason that Jonathan Kuminga is not playing. I just heavily suspect it.
Hey guys, I got a bolt here because I got to get a few things done, and I actually had a live stream going for the last hour, but
all I know is, Larry, is I've got sources too. I hear shit too, and I've never gotten an inkling from anyone, and there's no confirmation anywhere that confirms that Steve Kerr is getting advice from Steph or Draymond in regards to who should and shouldn't play. We don't know that as a fact. To me, when you say
my uncle could beat both of your uncles up.
Well, first of all, you're acting like there wasn't a Hamptons recruiting of Kevin Durant. What do you think that was?
Kerr wasn't there for that.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying he was, but the players were there.
Yeah, but there's a difference between a superstar you're recruiting and a young player who needs minutes and development. I don't know if Steph and Dre are having meetings with the coaches on that. I'm
just telling you that that's what I think. I don't know. I don't know.
And I'm telling you, I think that I don't know what to think, but I'm not going to just jump to the conclusion without knowing the facts that that's what's going on here. Because
that's what I think. I don't think it's reasonable or plausible to think that a decision of that magnitude that directly affects Steph Curry's chances of winning a ring in his twilight years. I don't think it's plausible.
Well, welcome to my
Steve
frustration,
would
Larry.
Do this without.
Welcome to my frustration. Welcome to my frustration for Steve Kerr, because I do think, based on watching what this guy does as the commander of this ship, how he runs it for 6 years, I don't think he's doing that. And I'm basing it largely off what I hear myself and public comments. Stephen Curry 3 weeks ago came out and said, we're not winning this thing. We're not going all the way if Jonathan Kuminga is not a part of it. And then right after that, he's getting DNP'd. I don't know what to believe, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I do know and that's a fact. We don't know that. But Steve Kerr, I've seen enough to know that I can't come to the conclusion that what he's doing is the sensical thing, because he rarely does sensical things. I can't.
But I mean, you said it. You just said it. You don't know. I mean,
you don't know either. But you're pretending you do know.
No, I don't. I didn't. Sorry. Okay. Get it together. I just said I don't know. This is what I think. I'm just telling you. This is what I think. I didn't say.
You're saying you think that based on
that. This is what I think based on my conversations with Steve. That he actually makes. I think he puts Draymond and Steph and Jimmy at the head of the table. And I think there's many examples that we could point to where they are at the head of the table.
Name one.
I don't have definitive proof. We're just going to leave it there.
Well, I think that doesn't happen. I've interviewed.
Okay, that's
Steve
fine. You stated
myself.
it already. You stated it already. You don't need to.
Well, I don't think it. There you go.
That's fine. Diami Drum says, dude, Cy obviously brings some kind of small man complex here. Chill out. What are you a champion of? Humility much? All right, let's just easy on that.
Fuck you.
Fozzie, Cy thinks Doc Rivers can win this with Steph and KD.
Dude, Monty Williams could have won with Steph and KD. Get the hell out of here. What are you
Kid
talking
Trickster, serious question. Is Eamon Thompson what we thought JK would be? I think they're very comparable, to be very comparable. I think that's a good comp. Good defender, some limitations offensively. Yeah, I can see the comp. O'Shea Barton.
Here's the thing. So Eamon Thompson, the first thing I think of when people bring comps like this up is how many minutes is this guy getting, right? Because how the hell can you prove yourself if you're not actually playing? Jonathan Kuminga has ever averaged over 26 minutes a game. Eamon Thompson this season averaged 32.3. So we're seeing what happens when you play someone, and you see what happens when you don't play someone. We have no clue what he's going to end up being because he doesn't play. And that is easily the best methodology for development and growth.
Look at the Houston and Thompson and all these young guys. They've got a perfect spot where they can just grow together, and it's just perfect for them. Where Kuminga got drafted into a situation where there already was a dynasty, and he's got to play this incredibly efficient ball at all times. They're always seeing what he can't do. They're always seeing his limitations. So it's.
I want to elaborate real fast. By the way, a couple people in the chat are saying there goes Cy again talking over people like he's the host. Newsflash: I am one of the two fucking hosts tonight. This is a Golden Days dual stream. This is as much my show as Larry's. So understand that before you think that I'm just like talking over people. This is a dual stream. This is Golden Days and the Krueg Show tonight. So just want that fact out there before you make assumptions.
O'Shea Barton says, watching this series, JK is green, Pods is Fred. Fried? Finished? What's
I don't
Fred?
see it. I don't see what.
Oh, Fred VanVleet. Fried, maybe.
Fred Flintstone?
I don't know.
Oh, Fred VanVleet.
Maybe Fred VanVleet.
He's saying that JK is Jalen Green and Pods is VanVleet.
There we go.
There you go. No cap 757. If JP were here, they win in 4 or 5.
Agreed. Oh, no. I thought you said JK. I apologize. No, yeah. If Kuminga had a heavy role in this series, they win in 5. I would agree with that if he said that. He's
talking about Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
MK, 2 things can be true. Kerr is slightly overrated, and Cy is making an awful argument for why.
A third thing can be true. MK, you're wrong.
Christopher Andrews, Cyrus sounds like an entitled child.
That would be cute if I had any sense of actual entitlement or any privilege in my life to make me feel entitled. Motherfucker, I came from nothing. No one ever handed me a thing in this world. I've had no privilege. So F you for thinking I'm entitled to something.
Right.
I root for the underdog.
Dude.
Steve Kerr is not the underdog in this. Steve Kerr is the one with the power in this dynamic. And I'm sticking up for the guy who has no power, who's getting screwed over by the person who has all the power. That's my take on it.
D-Watt, just like JaVale McGee was, Kuminga has been a liability on both ends. If you disagree with Kerr's decisions with him, you don't know ball. Now Kerr giving Looney minutes tonight. Checkmate. All right. Christopher Andrew, Kerr, champ, player, coach, Cy, old guy yelling like baby.
If I had Kerr's privilege in my life, you'd see a lot of different results.
Trilogy 3 just said, hey, here, $2. Alan Johnson says JK and Moody both played 2022 finals.
Yeah.
Then Kerr failed to even play them the next season. Lamb and Jerome played, and they were never developed. That choice arguably stunted the growth of JK and Moody. That's ChatGPT. That's ChatGPT.
I mean, they did play. Like Moody was starting games in that 2022 run against the Mavericks, I believe, and then Kuminga was starting against the Grizzlies.
Trilogy says, "Is this Cyrus guy always on the show? What the fuck is this?" Come on, man. Size emotional
stream, and if you want to hear more truth instead of more Kerr propaganda, the show is called Golden Days.
There you go. All right. we've been going for 2.5 hours. We're going to call it right here. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. Thanks to LearnKey Upskill Academy for sponsoring the Krueg Show as well. Cy, go ahead, shout out your sponsors and let's thank everybody.
Thank you to my two primary title sponsors.
Ringo.
What's up? Oh,
Ringo.
Hey, but what's the dog's name?
Ringo.
Ringo. Hi, Ringo. Hey, buddy.
I had to just bring some good vibes in here to end the show.
Yeah, Buster.
And people try to like, why is this so like, or why am I all fired up? It's because if you missed the beginning, we had a fifth person on this panel who just didn't want to have a conversation, who just wanted to make a claim. And then when I followed up and wanted to know, what are you basing that on? His response was, I just know, or I don't even know what he said. And that, I'm sorry, that did rile me up because I haven't experienced absurdity like that in a very long time, where someone is coming on a program where the entire premise is communication, talking, and he doesn't want to talk. He just wants to make some random opinion that pushes back against mine. And then when I follow up and ask why, he says, because. Like, that will rile me up. If I ever ask someone why, and your answer is because, yeah, you're going to rile me up, man, especially on a program. So that's why I am the way I am tonight.
I mean, I'll say this. Carl made a mistake because you don't hide things from the audience.
No.
You either don't, but sometimes you just got to be a little bit more gracious and just allowing him to duck out with what, he didn't want to get into it, and you wanted to push him on it, and it got a little,
if you don't want to get into it,
got a little uncomfortable. He made a mistake, Cy. He made a mistake. Okay.
I guess. But
made a mistake.
Anyway, but I want to give props to Decades. Again, go to decadesofficial.com. This is a cover band that plays everything from Katy Perry to today, the 50s to today. They're locals that play all the Red Zone rallies at 49ers pregame shows, and they could be there for you, for your fundraiser, for your wedding, for your anniversary, for a birthday, for a good old-fashioned backyard rager, whatever it is that you need live music for, the Catalina Wine Mixer. If you're trying to recreate the greatness that Prestige Worldwide once upon a time busted out, hire them. Go to decadesofficial.com for more information, or email kyle@atomicmusicgroup.com. Tell them any of us sent you, and you'll get a discount. Today's episode also brought to you by Visit Humboldt, an incredible tourist destination. It's beautiful. It's an unbelievable getaway to lower your stress. Great breweries. I don't know if any of you gentlemen have ever had a Steelhead beer. It is delicious, and you can thank me later if you've never had that. And the brewery is up in Humboldt County. So visit Humboldt.com or just shoot me a DM. I used to go to Cal Poly Humboldt. That's what they now call Humboldt State University. So thank you to visit Humboldt.com, and thanks to you guys. I appreciate it. And sorry that I got riled up, but I'm not sorry. I wish, it's unfortunate that it got to that, but I don't put up with that shit, man, and Carl should have known better. Anyways, I'm done.
Cy, do you want to apologize to Kerr?
No.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what